Greetings, fellow goths and weirdos. Tiki here to indulge you on a journey through the warped mind and filmography of one Mr. Tim Burton. That's right, it's the just two parts this time. Great Burton Ranking Podcast. Joining me tonight is Eli of Little Blue Productions. How you doing tonight, Eli?
I am thrilled to be a part of this.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So basically, folks, this is kind of serving two purposes. Number one, it's kind of a little bit of a build up to Beetlejuice. You know, we're all excited about it.
Oh yeah.
It was honestly a tough call if we wanted to do this before or after Beetlejuice, considering that is going to be his 20th movie. But I ultimately I kind of think it's appropriate. Like, let's go in, let's rank 19 of them, and then we'll see what this new one has in store. And maybe when I do the Beetlejuice spoiler cast, I will reveal where it would have been on my ranking. All right. So, with that in mind, Eli, let's check out some comments here.
Yep.
We have Aquatad saying another great ranking podcast. Certainly wasn't expecting this. We have Kogia saying Tim Burton's one of my favorite directors. So,
mine too.
Just to give a shout out here, we're also doing this to kind of build some anticipation for a series that's been in the works for long over a year at this point, which is the great DisneyToons Ranking Podcast, which I will be doing with Monkey. And that will be coming out Labor Day weekend is our goal for the start of that. We will be covering 30 films in the DisneyToons sequel pantheon. It should be a fun time. All right, Eli, but the task at hand tonight, we have to go through part one, which is Burton's 19 through 11. So basically anything that did not make our personal top 10s. And essentially the dynamic we've got going on is that I feel like you're much more of an optimistic fan of Burton, whereas I'm kind of like more of the old guard, where it's like I respect the hell out of the older stuff. There's some newer stuff that I really like. But generally speaking, I feel like I'm a lot more cynical about modern Burton. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of like see where our lists line up and compare.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, yeah.
Well, if I may, because I didn't have anything to say yet, but yeah, because it's awesome that we're doing this kind of thing, and what better way to rank movies of a great visionary filmmaker than Tim Burton. And actually a little quick background just to keep it brief, because I was basically the one that came up with this idea back a couple of months ago, and this is a fact. When I was on the Little Blue channel, because anybody who follows the Little Blue channel, and I'm on there because I do review videos, but more than that, when I was doing the Planet of the Apes review marathon, and when it came to Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, and I was getting into a bit of a Tim Burton mood, it just like dawned on me and it's popped in my head that what, maybe there should be something on the So You Want to Be an Imagineer channel. And as I was slowly but surely about being a part of the channel, I messaged Tiki, mentioned this, and told him about an idea and a suggestion, like what could be great for a stream and podcast down the road a little. And we've talked about it, of course, and the further on, and when we were trying to figure out, well, do we want to do this like after Beetlejuice, and after we've seen it, or what? But I think, especially as of now, where we're at right now, it's better that this be right before Beetlejuice comes out. But it's not just like in celebration of Beetlejuice. I mean, this year is really, and has been, a big year and comeback for Tim Burton, because keep in mind, he hadn't done anything big and such for about 5 years. And the last like film he directed was Dumbo, but he technically kind of slowly made a comeback when he was involved in Wednesday Addams on Netflix. So yeah, there's that. But on the side of films, well, as of now, because this big comeback with the long-awaited sequel that had been in development hell for quite a while, and that, of course, being Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. So,
all right. So in order to decide who goes first and who goes second, we are going to flip what I would lovingly like to call, wait for it,
okay.
Timmy's Token. All right, Eli, here's how this is going to work. Do you want heads or tails? Hello?
I'm still here.
Do you want heads or tails?
Let's do heads first.
Okay, so if it lands heads, you will get to decide who goes first. If it lands tails, I will get to decide who goes first.
Okay.
1 second. My laptop is... Oh, my God.
I assume you're going to go for tails?
I will go for tails, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, because one of us has to go with heads, and the other has to go with tails.
All right, well, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go first.
Oh, okay. No problem.
God. Okay, sorry. Let me get the thumbnail back up. And also, Eli, this is your thumbnail, by the way. So just credit where credit's due. Kogia said it looks stylish.
Yeah, and if I may,
yes, Nightmare is Henry Selick. We will not be counting Nightmare. Nightmare is not part of this.
And if
with all due respect, Nightmare.
And if I may on the thumbnail, because yes, viewers, the thumbnail for this stream and for part 1, because when we do part 2, there will be a slight change aside from Burton in the thumbnail, because different characters will be there. But point being is that I made the thumbnail myself. And basically the thumbnail is like how I did the thumbnail. That's kind of my style, because I like adding in like characters like in corners and stuff like that. I've seen that kind of thing, and maybe I think probably me and Jacob almost have the same like taste of thumbnails and such. How each of us do thumbnails.
Well, the thing I like about your style is honestly the fact that you have an emphasis on like the visual element of it, like as in like you like I like that we're kind of leaning into not having text, which I think is good. I like when images speak for themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
anyways,
you guys for a while like when in your past streams, you for a while like sometimes had thumbnails that did not have text. So
that's true for a while. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right,
and very quickly, no, we're not doing sadly as much as we'd love to, and I know that goes for me. We're not. Nightmare Before Christmas is not going to be in this list because. I mean, Tim Burton didn't direct that. We're only focusing on the films that he did direct.
Mm-hmm. The feature films that he directed.
Of course.
We were even tempted to include the shorts, but we were like, nah, that'd be unfair to pit him against the feature stuff. All right.
Yeah, they are. After all, they are short films.
Yeah. So, Eli, without further ado, oh, God, this is exciting. What is your number 19?
Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows. All right. Appropriate.
And let me clarify. I want to clarify to you, Tiki. I know I did to you off camera, off stream, and that also goes for you viewers. The way I my own top 19 to 1, it's gonna like starting off with films that I think are not that bad to the ones that are good. And to the ones that are excellent. So, because I have the films that are up to 19. I mean, I have no hatred to any single one of his movies, especially those that are not really considered great masterpieces of Burton's.
But I think if
Okay.
one of them's going to be your number 19, I think this would make sense.
Yeah. Even I mean, I won't deny it either because I know Dark Shadows is not the best of Burton's, but I mean, I don't think it's that bad. But okay, I might as well. So I might as well go ahead and talk about Dark Shadows more on it.
Yeah, talk about it a little bit. We
Uh,
want to maybe
I,
spend like a minute
I,
apiece on
yeah,
these.
I know, and boy, and it's obvious, you know, how I'm gonna talk about Burton's films, my opinions on it, and that goes for Tiki. When Dark Shadows comes to him and such, but you get my point. But anyways, so what I have to say on Dark Shadows. Well, like I said, I know it's not the best of Burton's. It's not one of his top best films that he's done. And yeah, I mean, probably the story isn't that strong, but overall, I mean, I I think Burton and everybody else involved, they tried, and especially because I remember from I guess behind the scenes or something, Johnny Depp stated that and pretty much I think this is Johnny was the one that started that started this where he established that he contacted Burton at one point, and he said, maybe we should do a vampire movie. And they were Burton and Johnny and the other cast members. They were aware of the Dark Shadows series, and you know what? Because Dark Shadows, that's kind of something right up Tim Burton's alley. So, you know, Dark Shadows was made. It came out. It got very mixed, I assume, and well, for me, because I've seen it a good chunk of times. I did my review on it on the Little Blue channel. I even got my mom to watch Dark Shadows, and guess what? She thought it was not that bad. And I think the casting for Dark Shadows was pretty good. I mean, I really think that those involved in Tim Burton's films, because not only do they fit well in Tim Burton's world of filmmaking, but they can try their best. And I think that because from Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Chloe Grace, um, Eva Green, Bella, what's her last name, and a cameo of the late legendary Christopher Lee, which, by the way, Dark Shadows was the last Tim Burton film that Christopher Lee would be in, and even getting a cameo from Alice Cooper. But yeah, just overall, Dark Shadows, it is what it is. It's not really the best of Burton's, but for me, I quite enjoy it. I don't think it's that bad. And, well, for that being my number 19 spot.
All right. Okay, Eli, we're going to get controversial immediately because I know you're going to have this a lot higher up. I will just say right now, my number 18 is actually Dark Shadows, and I pretty much agree with everything you say. It's really not a terrible movie in some elements. I feel like the casting is definitely the best part of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's just I feel like the story is very confused. It feels like one of those TV adaptations that's trying to fit a lot into a feature length runtime. It's just trying to cram in a lot of lore. And I think the pacing's a little off. So again, it's I feel like Dark Shadows is almost kind of like just the most average Burton movie, and just by my estimation, that kind of makes it near the bottom. But Alice in Wonderland is not average. Okay, here's my beef with Alice in Wonderland. It's mostly due to the storyline. I do not understand how you take Alice in Wonderland and you give it a hero, a chosen one prophecy storyline, and have this weird kind of post-apocalyptic. I give it credit for not being a direct remake. I give it credit for it being a sequel. That in itself is interesting. By all means, let's make something clear here. I want to make a big distinction. This is my least favorite Burton movie. It is far from my least favorite Disney live action remake. Okay, there are far worse Disney live action remakes. But I don't know, man. I think the effects don't really hold up all that well. This movie came out like almost 15 years ago at this point, and I feel like it kind of shows. I remember the 3D being impressive, but when you're just watching it on a laptop or whatever, it's not really going to hold up.
Yeah.
I think the casting for the most part is pretty awkward. There's a reason why I had you put Anne Hathaway on the thumbnail, and that's that I just think Anne Hathaway she's always struck me as like she does not know what the heck she is doing in this movie. I don't know. Her performance has always been like uniquely bad for me. All right. I'm gonna address a couple comments here and then we can move on really quick.
Of course.
Aquatad says was when he also involved in Fox and the Hound. He was involved in Fox and the Hound. I believe also the Black Cauldron. I think that was it when it comes to Disney. But yes, very much Fox and the Hound was his biggest contribution to Disney.
Yeah, he was one of the animators on the female Fox, which he stated he stated that he found it boring.
Yeah.
And Black Cauldron, yes, he was involved in it, and he did a dozen concept drawings, which none were used.
Womp womp.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, credit where credit's due for Code Geass for being a fan of Alice. I believe that Little Blue is definitely, or Eli is definitely more in your camp than I am in regards to Alice. I would say it's probably for me solidly in the middle when it comes to live action remakes, where it's like I can respect the ambition of it being a like a sequel as opposed to just a straight retelling. But I just do not like a lot of the directions they went in. I do not like the Chosen One prophecy stuff. I don't know. A lot of awkward moments for me in here. So, yeah, that's about it.
Is Alice? I was confused because you started talking about Dark Shadows and then Alice. Is Alice number 19 for you?
Alice is number 19. Dark Shadows is number 18 for me.
Okay.
So with that in mind, let's get to your number 18.
Okay. Number 18 for me is... oh, well, I mean, as much as I thought it was decent, Dumbo.
All right.
Okay. So as of the stream, I had earlier today, excuse me, I had watched Dumbo for the first time and did my review on it. And if anybody who follows me on the Low Blue channel, I made a community post for the next week / the last week of August. Disney live action movie week will be coming. The review videos I do, and one of them is Dumbo. But again, there was already a teaser in a community post on the Low Blue channel. So Dumbo. So I'd watched it and recorded my review, and because. Yeah, like I just said, I thought Dumbo, the live-action Dumbo, was a decent, not bad, pretty good live-action Disney remake. Because this is kind of like this is just like say what happened with the live-action Alice in Wonderland film, which Burton also did. The story in the live-action Dumbo. Totally different than the animated one. And I think that was probably for the best. I mean, especially since you had Burton involved. I mean, look, because the live-action Dumbo film, it follows the same basics as what the animated one did. Dumbo being born, and, everybody shocked by the sight of his big ears, and some of them giving him a hard time. We also have, some details and such, like from the Magic Feather, the Storks, Casey Jr., a circus, of course, Mrs. Jumbo, the Pink Elephants, and the live-action Dumbo has a mouse. That's a nod to Timothy Mouse. I mean, this is live action. There's no way that it depends. Like some certain things. Can not really work in live action because, well, they are live action. Because would you have really expected to see the circus train with eyes and a mouth, eyes. I don't think so. That's not possible for this. Would you have expected Dumbo and Timothy getting drunk off their butts? No way. No way they would have been able to do that as of now. But at least, like, as I said, we still, like, the pink elephant thing is in the live action, but how it's done, I think it was not that bad. And well, also because and I think the casting for the human characters, and you know what, because I think it did work. Some of the human characters, and them interacting and helping out Dumbo. I really was glad to see that the members of the circus, they treated Dumbo very well. They were helping him out, taking care of him, and even when Mrs. Jumbo, and this too being in the live action as it is in the animated, Mrs. Jumbo losing it, all hell breaks loose in the circus, and because Mrs. Jumbo going on a rampage, the big show tent collapses and so on, and Dumbo and his mother are separated for a while, and in this, well, she was transported somewhere else, but they would be reunited when they happen to be in the same location, and that, of course, being Vandeveer's dreamland. And and it was great to see that, for both Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito coming back together and being in another Tim Burton film. And by the way, because Dumbo was Michael Keaton's first Tim Burton film since Batman Returns. It's been it had been that long since Michael was in a film directed by Burton. But Danny DeVito, he did, like, I think before Dumbo, the last Tim Burton film DeVito was in Big Fish. And by the way, speaking of which, Dumbo is the third Tim Burton film for DeVito where he is a ringmaster. The first being Batman Returns. Well, because technically Penguin was like a ringmaster, and DeVito as a ringmaster in Big Fish, and in Dumbo being a ringmaster. And I'm glad that Max didn't turn out to be a crap ass, boss, ringmaster. He turned out to be a really nice guy, and even at the beginning, because he thought he was like doing the best on what was going on, but towards the end, So, and getting and having Alan Arkin being in this, which, by the way, this would be his second and last Tim Burton film. All the this, I think the live action Dumbo film had some good moments, funny moments, and emotional moments, and that's enough. That's an important thing. Like the original, Dumbo is so good at bringing so much heavy emotional stuff. Mm-hmm. And also, of course, the live-action Dumbo film would have to have this, Baby Mine. Having a couple of songs be in the live-action Dumbo, and, the biggest one, of course, being Baby Mine. And how Danny Elfman, he incorporated some bits and pieces of music from the original Dumbo, like, say, I know I heard a bit of Casey Jr., and there was a bit of Pink Elephants, and I think one or two others. And the climax, and, the circus group helping out and saving Mrs. Jumbo, And by the way, speaking of the circus group, because I mentioned this when I recorded my review of Dumbo, I really think that in some movies that have circuses to them, they never disappoint. They never fail when it comes to the group and members of circuses. That they're an interesting, colorful batch of characters in a circus, like, the live-action Dumbo film, Big Top Pee-wee, and the biggest one would have to be the circus bugs from P.T. Flea's Circus in a Bug's Life. So take those for example. So, but just overall, the live-action Dumbo film, it may not be the best of Burton's films, and it may not be the best, one of the top best, decent, good live-action Disney remakes, but in my opinion, I thought this was decent, not that bad. I'm glad where the story was going, and it was not that similar, not an exact duplicate of the original. So there's that.
Okay. All right, so just to recap so far, your number 19 was Dark Shadows. My number 19 was Alice in Wonderland. Your number 18 was Dumbo. My number 18 was Dark Shadows. Now we're going to switch it to my number 17, which is, coincidentally enough, Dumbo.
Oh boy. So what's so I've talked about my side and opinion on Dumbo. Now what's yours?
Let's get ready for Dumbo. Again, very much in the same wheelhouse of Alice in Wonderland, where I don't really think it's like one of the worst Disney live action remakes, period, but it's definitely not one of the best either. I honestly think Colin Farrell is kind of carrying this movie on his back, and that's why it's not like last on the list.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Colin Farrell because from Colin Farrell, Eva Green, everybody else, I think they were pretty good. They did not disappoint.
I think the little girl playing Colin Farrell's daughter is a little wooden, and that's not really like, I feel bad even calling that out, but I think she's pretty, she's got a very prominent amount of screen time, and she's just not great. But again, much like Alice in Wonderland, and this is definitely not as offensive to me as Alice in Wonderland is, just because I'm one of those weirdos where the original Alice in Wonderland, both the book and the original Disney movie, is kind of like sacred text to me. I love the original Dumbo, but I will admit it is dated, and so for that reason, I'm certainly down for a change. And I think this movie did have some good ideas in it. I certainly respect a lot of what they were going for. That being said, I feel like this movie's got some pacing problems. It does kind of feel like two movies in one when we switch to the Michael Keaton theme park. Michael Keaton's having fun, but I just feel like the role, like I said, I just wish that the role would have been introduced a little earlier on into the movie. I just feel like his character, for as over the top as he is, kind of comes in a little too late. But yeah, like you said, I think that the circus crew is a good lot, and Danny DeVito is having a fun time. Colin Farrell, as I said, is handling all the dramatic weight here, and Colin Farrell is really, for me, the reason to watch this movie at all. So yeah, frankly, I don't like how they handled the pink elephants. I don't know how you would have done it, but I don't know. It was fine, but it could have been a lot more interesting, especially when you think Tim Burton doing pink elephants on parade. I picture in my head something a little bit more ambitious than what we actually got. Okay, just to go over some comments. Kogia says he enjoys Dumbo for the reunion between Burton, Michael Keaton, and Danny DeVito, as you pointed out.
Oh yeah.
Teddy says for Alice, it's fine. It's not terrible in my opinion, but I watched it once, never watched it again. Yeah, I think I've seen it twice. That checks out. Kogia says it's interesting that Danny DeVito and Colin Farrell worked together on Dumbo shortly before Colin Farrell played the Penguin.
That is true.
That is funny. Yeah,
that is very true. And what a coincidence.
Teddy says Pink Elephants on Parade is the greatest, one of the greatest things Disney ever did. I agree. It's up there for sure.
Even I was just going to quickly say, very quickly, even the Nostalgia Critic listing it, I think, in the top 11, pardon my French, mind fucks. So.
For me, I feel like the Rite of Spring from Fantasia is incredible, and then also the opening multi-plane camera shot in Bambi, just that 2-minute tracking shot into the woods,
And that choir especially.
Oh yeah. I mean that to me is one of the all-time great Disney, and that's one that not a lot of people talk about in comparison to something like Pink Elephants. It's a lot more atmospheric and moody than Pink Elephants. All right. Anyways,
and very quickly, Tiki, I'm very curious. What is dated in the original Dumbo?
The crows and the roustabouts?
Yeah. Why didn't I?
I mean, the thing that everyone says is dated.
The crows are harmless. I get it. I understand it, but they're harmless crows. So
Yeah, I don't want to I don't want to open that can of worms. But I understand what you're saying. But yeah,
yeah,
I think the roustabouts. It's hard to argue with the roustabouts, though.
I'm just like I'm just saying like where I'm going with this. So
all right. So Eli, I'm genuinely curious to see if your number 17 continues the trend of like being like one spot above my numbers. So what do you got?
Well, very quickly, like, what do you think will be 17 for me?
You know what? I'm gonna guess Big Eyes because you didn't seem too enthused about it.
I'm a bit shocked. You are correct.
Aha.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit shocked. Like, oh my, like you are correct. You got it.
Man,
it is number 17 on my list.
It is not number 16 on my list, though. We kind of broke the chain.
Okay, but okay. Don't you mean 17 or 16? What are you saying?
Well, because we've been in the trend where like your number 19 was my number 18, your number 17 was my number 18.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, okay, so number 17 for me is Big Eyes as got Tiki, yeah, because way to go, because good job on you, because you called it. So, yeah, I very recently got to watch Big Eyes because as of the stream, like it's available to watch on Prime. So yeah, that was a great opportunity for me to watch it. Not to mention, this year marks its 10th anniversary. So yeah, so I'm glad that I've finally watched Big Eyes, and I got to be honest, because I didn't think it was that bad. But it was kind of not what I was expecting.
It's just kind of an underwhelming biopic, honestly.
I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, of course. So
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so yeah. So again, like how I feel about Big Eyes, and yeah, because for it being number 17 on my list, yeah, because I mean, it is thanks to this movie. Because I'm pretty sure there's some of us. I don't know about you, Tiki, that was not aware of this artist, this female artist whom Amy Adams portrays. But it is because it's thanks to this movie. Because sometimes there can be biopics where people are learning and discovering whom it is, and the biopic on this specific person and so on. But yeah, I think it was really cool to see Amy Adams in the world of Tim Burton's films with this. And you know what? Because it does. I mean, that depends. Especially when it comes to Tim Burton's filmmaking, like choosing the right specific actors for certain films. I mean, it's like, Ewan McGregor, he works so well, and he works so well being cast in Big Fish, and
Mm-hmm.
I think Mark Wahlberg, was the perfect fit in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Like, take those for example. But yeah, but for Big Fish, because yeah, this being based on the true story of I have to go in and it's IMDb page. Yeah, Margaret Keane and her, I think, second husband, Walter Keane. And life for Margaret Keane and her work, not the best at times, especially at a certain point when her second husband, Walter Keane, who claimed, and of course this is a biopic, this is based off of a true story, the actual Walter Keane, he claimed that he knew how to be an artist. He studied and so on. But it turned out he was just, a jerk and such, and he just stubborn, and he didn't. And using his wife Margaret, her doing the paintings, but Walter taking the credit. And even at first he wasn't doing this intentionally, I don't think, but very later on, yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. And and with everybody else that was in this movie and whom they betrayed, from, Christine Ritter, Jason Schwartzman, the great Terrence Stamp, which someone like Terrence Stamp, like perfect in the world of Tim Burton's films. Not to mention because the next film that Burton would do, and which would have Terrence Stamp in, would of course be Miss Peregrine. So I think Big Eyes was the first Burton film to have Terrence Stamp. So I was kind of a bit surprised that, because I knew Terrence Stamp was in this film, and I've only seen like just a few bits and pieces of this before I watched the film itself fully. I'd seen that one clip of Terrence Stamp, and where Walter Keane is pissed off at Terrence Stamp, John Cannaday, and Walter was this close to stabbing a fork at John, but John was very quick enough to stop him, and he handled this very well. Nothing else bad happened. The party proceeded. Yeah, and this, like, because the time and setting of Big Eyes, taking place from the 50s to the 60s, and especially, and I were to assume this happened, in reality, how Margaret Keane and Walter Keane, they got involved in the 1964 World's Fair, which, of course, a lot of people, when people think of the World's Fair, they would immediately think of, like, say, Walt Disney and his Imagineers, what they did at the World's Fair. But more than just that. More than just that. It was not just Walt Disney and what he brought to the World's Fair. Because, take Margaret Keane, for example, and Walter Keane, because they were asked to, well, Walter was asked, because they didn't know at the time, Walter was asked to do a huge painting and such for the World's Fair. Children from different cultures and stuff like that. And Margaret Keane's design, that when it comes to her paintings, is, well, having people, when drawing people, the eyes are big and such. And yeah, because again, people did not know at the time that it was not Walter that was doing the paintings, it was Margaret. And I think because it goes for both Margaret and Walter, like, how would the public feel and react that these type of paintings, and like a woman is doing is an artist and so on? But of course, in the end, when it was revealed in court, and when the task was for, like, to settle this, each of them would draw a painting. Margaret was easy peasy doing it, while Walter, he was stalling time, and he just, like, making an excuse that his arm, like, he broke a blood vessel or so, muscle spasm and whatever. And in the end, Walter lost, and it was revealed to the public that, she is the artist. But even after that, and as in some biopics, there would be, like, an aftermath, like texts, like where the people were and so on. And apparently, because Walter, until his death, before his death, like, he would still claim that he was an artist and he studied in Paris and stuff like that. But yeah, and even the Margaret Keane, she was still alive at the time, and when the biopic was made, she even makes a cameo, actually. And I would assume that, because her and the family, especially her daughter, they approved of the biopic. They were pleased, I guess. But just overall, what the biopic that Burton did, and the cast and crew, I don't think it was that bad. It may not be the strongest biopic film and the strongest film of Burton's, but yeah, and also
I actually kind of respect how low key it is in some ways.
Yeah, and if I also a quick mention, because again, more on the cast. Well, I know Tiki, when he gets to Big Eyes, boy, he's gonna have a handful when he talks about one particular cast member. But
Gios really likes.
What's that?
Code Gios in the comments says Christoph Waltz's performance made the film worth watching.
Okay, well, yeah, because I was going to thank you, Code Gios, because I was going to mention Christoph Waltz, because very quickly, how I feel about Christoph Waltz in this, I know Christoph Waltz is the biggest thing, like, when it comes to this film, and how Tiki feels about Christoph Waltz's performance in this. Like, I really, honestly, I wasn't getting any sense of feeling like him being over the top, because I were to guess that probably that's kind of like what Walter Keane was like back then, I guess. And what Christoph Waltz brought to the performance of Walter Keane, I think it worked. And I mean, that goes for everybody else whom they portrayed, and most notably Amy Adams and her portrayal of Margaret Keane. So I don't really see Christoph Waltz's performance as Walter Keane that bad and over the top, because I think it worked and because of what was going on in the biopic. But yeah, so anyway, so that's my number 17 spot, Big Eyes.
Okay. All right, so just to recap so far, your number 19 is Dark Shadows. My number 19 is Alice in Wonderland. Your number 18 is Dumbo. My number 18 is Dark Shadows. Your number 17 is Big Eyes, and my number 17 is Dumbo. All right.
It's your 17. Okay.
Yeah,
I should have thought of saying that how you say it. Dumbo, because how Timothy does, but that's okay.
So let's get to my number 16, and I guarantee you this is going to be the most controversial placement so far. As a matter of fact,
there we go.
We already had someone in the comments say that this movie better be in the top 5, and I'm terribly sorry, but it's not. It's not even in the top 15. Mars Attacks.
It's number 16.
This is a spicy take. I know. I've never really jived with Mars Attacks all that much.
So now again for your number 16, it's Mars Attacks.
Yes, my number 16 is Mars Attacks.
Making sure very clearly. So
yeah.
Ack. I had to.
I feel like this movie. One of the big issues I've always had with it is that the cast, while being an all-star cast for sure, there's just way too many storylines going on. I like all the cast, but the pace, the storylines, just the sheer amount of stuff going on is it's always just given this movie a really weird kind of start and stop sort of pacing to it. And I know that this movie is like very popular with a certain crowd of Burton people, and it is kind of like in that vein of old school Burton. It's kind of right on the cusp of kind of like old school Burton and when he started to get like remake crazy, and this was like very much an adaptation of the trading cards.
That's right. Tiki, very quickly, how's the name is pronounced? Aqueduct or
Aquatad? I don't quite know. Yeah.
Aquatat says, and obviously I assume this is about directly your number 16 spot. Is it he or she?
I think he.
Okay. So my point being, he commented saying, "Nice placement. We'll take it."
All right. I'm glad I didn't offend you. So yeah, like I said, I honestly feel like this movie would be better if it like maybe focused on half the number of characters that it does focus on, because really, as good of a cast as it is, I feel like the amount of storylines, the amount of subplots is what drags it down for me. And I don't know, the climax is silly, but I almost feel like it's a little too dumb. I almost feel like it's a little bit like, it's definitely like the most broad comedy that Burton had ever done up to that point.
Well, Tiki, like the climax and the Martians just pretty much just blowing up Earth and such, like that was in the trading cards.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So obviously, because they incorporated that from the trading cards into the film, the climax.
Okay, oh God.
Aquatat.
Is that it? Aquatat?
I think it's Aquitad.
Aquitad.
Yeah.
Aquitad.
Trying to say it all together, like with all like putting it together. Yeah. Sometimes difficult. But thank you for helping us pronounce your name.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying.
We always try, don't we all?
Aquitad. All right. I think we got it. Aquitad. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Eli, what is your number 16?
I'm just quickly looking. 19, 18, 17, 16. Okay, yeah, 16. I don't know if you would be expecting this or not, but my number 16 spot Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's not that much higher than my placement.
Wait, where was Alice again? Number 18?
No, it was 19 for me. It was dead last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, because it's true. Because I place Alice in Wonderland as number 16 for this list. Okay, so getting into Alice. Well, yeah, because Tiki already talked about what he had to say about Alice, his whole opinion on it. Well, here's mine. Buckle up. So Alice in Wonderland, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. By the way, I'd like to quickly mention this. Like, I think some people say that Alice in Wonderland, and if you would know this too, Tiki, because some people, yeah, because I think I've heard this. Like, people I guess people say that Alice in Wonderland, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, is what really started and kick off the whole thing of there being live action remakes of the Disney animated films.
Yeah. It was the first. It was the first one in the line. It made like over $1 billion at the box office, so it definitely jump started the trend.
Yeah, but Disney had technically done live action remakes.
Well, they had done like 101 Dalmatians. They had done like a version of the Jungle Book that was more based on the Rudyard Kipling books.
Yeah, it was called Mowgli, and that came out in 94.
101 Dalmatians was definitely the most prominent one, but that was it was just kind of a different era.
Is that how you say the name of the film, 101 Dalmatians?
Yeah, I don't say 101. I say 101. Yeah.
Okay, that's your opinion. How you say the title, that's okay. Well, yeah. So okay. So even though they technically were doing a couple of live action versions of the animated films, from Dalmatians to the Jungle Book, in fact, there was like maybe one or two more live action Jungle Book films from Disney, not just Mowgli. Well, and especially before the 2016 one. But anyway, so. Yeah, okay, so yeah. Alice in Wonderland is what really just about started the kicking off Disney doing numerous of live action remakes. But but the thing is, and as I explained, because I did explain this when I talked about Dumbo, because just like Dumbo, with Alice in Wonderland, it's different. The story is completely different. It does not tell the exact same story that we've seen God knows how many times in other movie adaptations of Alice in Wonderland. I mean, of course, except for the animated one, but I'm just saying because especially because I think even before Disney's animated Alice in Wonderland, I think there was like a few.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, especially there was one.
Even all the way back to it's not really a direct comparison, but like Walt Disney did have the Alice comedies back in the day, which not necessarily a direct adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, but still featured a girl named Alice going into like a cartoon world. So
yeah, and
Alice is very much rooted in like the early days of Disney.
Yeah, and not to mention because. That same year when, just to quickly mention this, but that same year when the animated Alice in Wonderland film was coming out, well, because coincidentally there was another Alice in Wonderland film that was coming out that same year, I think from the UK, and it had stop motion to it. And, well, Walt Disney, because he had heard about that Alice film, and he was not happy about it. And the Disney crew went out to sue the company and such, and Electric Dragon 505 established this at best in his animation look back of stop motion films. And yeah, Alice in Wonderland film being in there. But anyway, so, but coming back to the Tim Burton's Alice film, because like I said, the story in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland film, different than the story that we all know so well when we think of Alice in Wonderland. Because this story, and you know what? We've seen this kind of take before where you have characters going back and revisiting where they were during their childhood days. There's there's Hook, there's Christopher Robin. Take those for example.
Return to Oz.
Return to Oz?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't count because that
you don't think Return to Oz counts?
Oh, I was, jeez. I was mistaking for Oz the Great and Powerful.
Oh no. Oz the Great and Powerful definitely doesn't count, but yeah, I think Return to Oz would count.
Well, for some reason, I was thinking of Oz. When you said Return to Oz, my mind was thinking of Oz the Great and Powerful. I'm sorry, but yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I almost forgot. Yeah, Return to Oz counts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dorothy was still a child, so it kind of counts. But really, because like going with characters who have gotten older and grown up, and just revisiting where they were during their childhood and so on. But yeah, so Alice growing up, and well, apparently because she's summoned back to Oz. Well, because the Queen, the Red Queen, is out for revenge and so on, and all of the characters
She doesn't
in
get summoned back to Oz, Eli. She gets summoned back to Underland, not Wonderland, Underland.
Well, it's still the same, like in the animated one.
No, I honestly, I legitimately don't care. I'm just giving that a hard time. I'm sorry.
Can you not be that cruel to it and just, how Alice travels? Come on. Anyways, so yeah. Reuniting with the characters that she came face to face with when she first came to Wonderland. But there are those, I mean, especially like the Dormouse, there are those that don't think it's the Alice. The White Rabbit has brought the wrong Alice. Like, yeah, I think I get it, because like they would have thought that, yeah, because Alice was still a little girl the last time they met her. But no, it is the Alice, and little does the Red Queen actually know, and so on. And yeah, I think the casting, because yeah, unlike you, Tiki, because I think the casting for Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, I think again, I'm going to be completely honest, I think some pretty good choices, because it's only fitting that Johnny Depp is in this, and what better role for Johnny than, well, the Mad Hatter, of course. I mean, I think, because the style for that Alice film done by Burton, and for Johnny playing the Mad Hatter, it works. Helena Bonham Carter, who at the time was Burton's lady of his world of filmmaking, her playing the Red Queen, and the fact because, well, her head had to be digitally big and so on, the voice cast, and actually, because like Alice in Wonderland was my first introduction to Matt Lucas. Matt Lucas played Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and he would go on to be in as a companion in Doctor Who during the 12th Doctor era. But yeah, so, and Alan Rickman voicing the Caterpillar, because it's really cool because the Caterpillar bears resemblance to Alan Rickman. But yeah, and because this would be one of Michael Gough's last films, especially with Burton, because him voicing the Dodo and "Where away, Dodo," and of course, like again, the main antagonist, the Red Queen, and his name Crispin Glover, because he played Stain, Knave of Hearts, and this big, tall-legged guy with an eye patch. I thought he was pretty cool. And Crispin Glover, yeah, I mean, because him, despite him being a weirdo, he's still a great actor. Because a lot of us would remember him best, of course, playing George McFly in Back to the Future. So, I think Crispin Glover worked pretty good in in this one Tim Burton film, and man, I tell you, because a lot of CG in this. I mean, some mainly for the backgrounds and such, but some on the characters, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, and the Red Queen, because again, making her head large, and
the Red Queen. I'm sorry, but that effect is rough. I think in concept it's interesting, but it's just an effect that does not hold up for me.
How did it? Well, did you see Alice Through the Looking Glass by any chance?
Yes, I did.
How did the Red Queen in that look to you?
Honestly, just as bad from what I remember.
Okay. Yeah, Alice through the Looking Glass. That's an entire different story. But
I think Sacha Baron Cohen freaking saved Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Tiki, I remember hearing this, and I think my mom did too. Everybody cited Sacha Baron Cohen as one of the best things that came from Through the Looking Glass.
He's like the one thing that I'm like, yes, that was a good idea. That actually genuinely. Like, his character feels more like Lois Carroll than anything in the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland, for me personally.
Uh-huh. And like, take for
Still could have been a lot better, because I think James Bobbins, he did such a good job at with the Muppet movies. I do think that he had the potential to make like a really kick-ass Alice in Wonderland movie, but I will say I think Through the Looking Glass, just through the strength of Sacha Baron Cohen, is at least better than Alice 2010.
I didn't quite really know that. The guy who did Muppets Most Wanted did Looking Glass?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because he still worked on the 2011 Muppet film, but when it came to Muppets Most Wanted, he fully took on, in charge of that, and was, took the director's chair. So, okay, so I didn't really quite fully know that, because, so after doing Muppets Most Wanted, he did that 2 years later, Looking Glass. And I was going to say, because again, Sacha Baron Cohen being one of the best highlights and things to come from Looking Glass. Well, it's like, take for example, and from what I've heard, and I'm pretty sure, it is true, Tiki, because Son of the Mask, Alan Cummings, everybody cited Alan Cummings like the best thing to come from Son of the Mask as Loki.
Sure, I can get behind that.
Okay, but coming back to Tim Burton's Alice, because as I said, a lot of CG done for it, and again, just like say for the background stuff, Wonderland, Tweedledee Tweedledum, the Red Queen, and Crispin Glover, he was practically wearing a green screen suit, and he was on stilts. So, but and I think because say again, the rest of the casting, like what's her face, like who plays, Mia Wasikowska. Do you know how to pronounce her last name?
I actually don't.
All right, but we know who, viewers, who
Wasikowska, I think. That's about
who plays Alice.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, first name Mia. I thought Mia was
okay. I know for a fact you've seen the Nostalgia Critic review of this movie, and
I have.
I agree with everything Doug has to say about her performance, frankly.
Well, I mean, that's his opinion.
I'm bland.
Well, as I just said, that's his opinion, and that's your opinion, Deacon.
That is my opinion, yes.
We're all entitled to our opinions. That's what matters. But I don't care. I don't think she was a bad Alice. And the big one for you, Tiki, and now I get to talk about it too. Good old Anne Hathaway as the White Queen. Okay, so how I feel about her as the White Queen. Well, fun fact. Anne Hathaway was originally considered for the role of Alice, but due to scheduling conflicts and such, she wasn't able to participate taking the role of Alice, although she still got to be a part of the film, but this time as the White Queen. And you know what? I think that worked out much better in the final film because, well, and obviously, it's no doubt that the White Queen, she does exist in the original Alice books. So I think Anne Hathaway's the White Queen. Honestly, I don't think it's that bad. And well, because the White Queen, she's a better queen and such than say the Red Queen.
You know what? The way I would describe all the performances in this movie is that the actors are certainly making choices. Whether those choices are going to vibe with you or not is anyone's guess, but they are certainly making choices, if that makes sense.
Okay, but my point being, because more on Anne Hathaway's the White Queen, because again, The character itself, like being a sweet, lovable queen, unlike the Red Queen, which when it came to Through the Looking Glass, it turns out, I think the first one did establish that. I mean, not only are they rivals and they're both queens, well, and not to mention the fact that the Red Queen stole the White Queen's crown. Well, because we it turns out that yeah, they are sisters. So, and how we get more of that in Through the Looking Glass, and it is nice to see that in Through the Looking Glass, the Red Queen is redeemed and they become better sisters and so on, and their relationship. But anyways, so I think like for the White Queen and Alice, well, and that also goes for Through the Looking Glass. They are canon. Just something about like say like, well, especially because when it comes to certain characters in Burton films, like sometimes the makeup that's implied on them and how they look. In my opinion, there's just something about the White Queen's appearance and look. There's just something so great to that. I'm just saying because, and I'm not. I mean, in a pretty. I'm saying this in a decent and honest way and such. And just the wardrobe and costuming and again, just overall how the White Queen looks pretty good. And well, I mean, and to mention her, the longest costume designer that has done a lot of costume such for Burton's films, Colleen Atwood.
Legend.
Yeah, that's right. Because like I almost forgot. Like yeah, she became a Disney.
Nothing but respect for her, and even in the movies, I don't personally like.
I mean, don't you think like in some of Burton's films and that you've listed and such, like, don't you at least still think that the costume and wardrobe that she does is
yeah, I think she's consistently been one of the best things about Burton's movies. Consistently, yeah. Nothing but respect.
and again, like, remind me again. She did become a Disney legend this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I forgot. Did she appear? Did she appear in person at D23?
That I don't know. I didn't actually watch the panel.
Well, I technically did because I watched it on a YouTube stream. So, but well, I mean the full presentation of the D23 like Disney Legends ceremony, it is on Disney Plus. So, but yeah, so rightfully so. Good to see that. Yeah, she became a Disney legend, and well, her being a part of Disney, and mainly that's because of Burton. Yeah, just overall because. Oh yeah. And quick mentioning of the Jabberwock that appears in Tim Burton's Alice. Well, how the Jabberwock was considered to appear in the animated Alice film, but that did not happen. But until we did get to see it, still from Disney, and well with Tim Burton, and yeah, the Jabberwock's appearance was pretty good, and the fact that having Christopher Lee voicing the Jabberwock now.
That's some good casting. I'm not gonna lie. That's definitely one of the better elements of this whole thing. I can't argue with you there.
I was literally about to say, don't tell me like you don't think that's good and such. Like,
no, that's cool. That's definitely cool. Alan Rickman Caterpillar, definitely cool. No notes there.
What about the others? Like, I don't know, like Tweedledee, Tweedledum, the White Rabbit.
They're all like all right. I don't like the designs on Tweedledee, Tweedledum. White Rabbit does not have nearly as much of a personality as he does in the Disney movie. I love Bill Thomas as a voice actor, Bill Thompson, I think. Yeah.
And I'm Cheshire Cat, the Dodo, March Hare.
Cheshire Cat is just all right. I actually really like the March Hare. I love how hyped up he is. Like how overly I would describe the March Hare in these movies as overly caffeinated, and I really like it.
Yeah, especially just the personality of the March Hare is so good.
I would be happy with more March Hare screen time, frankly. Anyways.
Yeah, apparently Through the Looking Glass, the March Hare's name is revealed to be Thackeray, I guess. I don't know.
He gets a little bit more to do in Through the Looking Glass. He's kind of part of the main team in that movie.
Yeah. And also, with the exception of the dodo, because the dodo doesn't appear in Through the Looking Glass, and probably that's because, well, in respect to the passing of Michael Goff. So, yeah, it only seems fitting, like, to have the dodo be absent, and you know what, because it just wouldn't feel right to recast someone like Michael Goff.
Of course.
Yeah. But just, okay, to finish up overall, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, for me, I quite enjoy it. I like where it goes, and with with the story being completely different, and you know what? Maybe to some, I think even the nostalgia critic feels the same way too. If the title of the film would have been at least different, I don't know, but
right, like Return to Wonderland or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm sure as though people would still.
I know that's lazy because it's basically just taking Return to Oz.
True. So, and if it did have a different title and such, I'm sure people would still get the idea of what they were going to watch, and well, knowing where the story was going. So,
or even like Adventures in Wonderland, because the original book was technically called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
Oh, instead of Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but still. I mean, again, where the story was going, I mean, who knows? But all right. Okay, so that's it for me. My number 16 spot, Alice in Wonderland.
Okay, my number 16 was Mars Attacks. So my number 15 is going to be Big Eyes. So not too far from you.
Actually, no, not at all.
Yeah.
We're just
so far, about
this close.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed up Big Eyes pretty well.
How Big Eyes is close to where we're at, in our top list.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think Big Eyes, I think its best element is also the thing that holds it back, is that it's just basically Burton just trying to make a normal movie, for lack of a better word. I definitely feel like stylistically, it's probably the most restrained out of any of his stuff, for better or for worse. Christoph Waltz is definitely I'm not going to say it's a terrible performance, but I will say I do think it's very over the top. I think there's a lot of moments in it where I think he's hamming it up a little too much. I will say that you did remind me how good that last courtroom scene is with him, though. Him just struggling to get anywhere near the style is a pretty delicious comeuppance. I will say that much.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I respect this movie for being as low scale as it is, but I just can't rank it any higher, because at the end of the day, I just think it's kind of like an okay biopic. It's not lighting the world on fire. I don't really think it, as good as Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz are, I don't think either of them are anywhere near the top of their game as actors. I think that to a certain extent, this is going to sound kind of mean, but I think to a certain extent, they're kind of just going through the motions as performers in this movie. They're not really at their A game here. So yeah, I don't know. It's perfectly decent, perfectly acceptable, but I just don't think stylistically it's anywhere close to being one of the heavy hitters in Burton's catalog. So that's pretty self-explanatory on my end. All right.
Mm-hmm. Ed, do you not have anything to say on Christoph Waltz?
Like I said, I think with Christoph Waltz, I think it's not a terrible performance. I just think there's moments where he goes really over the top, and I think that his general vibe is the one thing that's kind of clashing with the rest of the movies, kind of everyday sort of realistic tone. He's the one person that kind of feels like a cartoon character in this movie. Yes, I respect that take, that you think that Christoph Waltz gives a career-defining performance, and it's a decent performance. I don't think it's not a boring performance. I will say that much. Again, much like much like the last movie we talked about, everyone's making a choice. Much like Alice in Wonderland, everyone's making a choice. There's no performances that are just oh, okay, they're just kind of going through the motion.
I think, Tiki, I'm missing something. How can you Making choices like what? Like you can see it on like we can see it on screen. They're making choices, or what? I think I'm missing
Okay,
something.
well, like for example, in Alice in Wonderland's case, like Anne Hathaway doing all that crap with her hands and stuff like that. Like that's what I mean by making a choice,
Eh.
or Johnny Depp kind of going in and out of the Scottish accent. It's like it's just very like just weird things about the performances that are just kind of quirky.
Or maybe this is my guess. Maybe the Mad Hatter just likes sometimes speaking in a Scottish accent or something, because sometimes he
It's a
can kind of.
choice, Eli. It's a choice. I
Well,
don't know.
I'm just saying, and like take for example when the Mad Hatter is kind of like letting his anger out like at the Cheshire Cat, and his face gets darker, and the Dormouse calms him down. Just how he was feeling, born on more, and then Hatta, and just thank you. So take that for example. But, okay, but I mean, I just like viewers, because Tiki was before we did off stream, because yeah, Tiki was mentioning to me because of Christoph Waltz in Big Eyes.
Look,
How
I kind of
he
hyped
was.
up the Christoph Waltz hate a little too much. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry to disappoint you and not go all hyperbolic about it.
No, it's fine. I get it. All right. So is that it on you with Big Eyes?
Pretty much, yeah.
All
What's
right.
your number 15?
All right. Remind me, because 16 was Alice, right, for me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I should have, because while you were talking, I was kind of like making sure, because I have IMDb up just in case, and I have the films like in the history and such. I put them in order. And I should have thought of keeping one particular character in the thumb, but it doesn't matter now. It's still good. Okay, so all right, number 15 for me. Tiki, I don't know, like you were a bit surprised on some of the others, especially with Alice. So my number 15, Planet of the Apes.
Okay. You know what? That is for the first time, Eli, we have lined up because Planet of the Apes is or I'm sorry, Big Eyes is my number 15. Planet of the Apes is my number 14.
Oh.
So once again, we're one off, but pretty much on the same wavelength.
Yeah, that's true. So now I get to go first, and then you get to go next on Planet of the Apes. All right, so here we go. Because yeah, again, number 15 for me, Planet of the Apes. So here's what I have to say about Planet of the Apes. And fun fact, this and the original Planet of the Apes from 1968, they were my first two Planet of the Apes films. I think maybe I did see the original first, and then I saw Tim Burton's. I think like the first time I got to see and watch Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, I remember like it was on TV at one point. This was years ago, and I think maybe I don't know, because I think maybe I watched the entirety of it. I don't know. It's been so long, but overall, because yeah, I had a DVD copy of it, and I've watched it, of course, on Disney Plus with the Hulu merge. Well, and also because rewatching it, and because I did the Planet of the Apes review marathon on the Little Blue channel a couple of months ago. Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, yeah. Well, I actually don't think it's that bad. I thought where the direction was going with this, and by the way, because it's true, because Burton established about Planet of the Apes that he sees this as a reimagining. I would assume, because that a reimagining of, I guess, like the book or something. I mean, his Planet of the Apes is not okay. It's not a remake of the movie. It's just another movie adaptation of the book. Because keep in mind, viewers, Planet of the Apes is based off of a book. So yeah, so again, like, and just like with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, being another movie adaptation of the book by the same name, and that also goes for Planet of the Apes. So yeah, really, it's not a Planet of the Apes is not Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes is not a remake of the original. It's just another movie adaptation, and how Burton put at it, a reimagining. So the direction of where Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes goes is pretty interesting. And the fact that, well, it's not planet Earth, and well, because it is revealed at the end of the original with one of the greatest twist endings in film history. Well, no, because in this, Mark Wahlberg's character literally, like, accidentally travels to another planet and such that is inhabited by apes, but there's also humans. And in this, well, I mean, the humans, like, some are smart, some are not. And, you know, and the apes are not really surprised, like, unlike how they were in the original, the sight of humans and the fact they can talk and so on. But, you know, I mean, one of the highlights, definitely, one of the highlights for Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes is the practical makeup. It's definitely, the practical makeup was definitely a highlight for the film, especially how far, you know, practical makeup for creatures and animals had come such, excuse me, had come such a long way. Jeez, especially after the original Planet of the Apes films. I mean, even my dad feels the same way too. The makeup for the original Planet of the Apes films, I think still to this day still looks fantastic. You know, especially like when you look at, say, like Roddy McDowall, he really like goes at it with like moving the face around with the nose and so on. But yeah, for this, what Rick Baker brought to the practical looks of the apes from, you know, apes, chimps, orangutans, and so on, really great. And the casting on the ape characters, like most notably the main antagonist, whom I think was really good in this. And I don't care if he went over the top, because you know what? He was an ape, so what? Apes can go over the top, and apes can
Eli,
go.
I'm actually in complete agreement with you over him. I think he's a great part of this movie. He is probably one of the big reasons why I don't have this movie in my bottom 5.
Well, thank you for agreeing. So, yeah, again, apes in reality can go over the top, so this is acceptable. So, what Tim Roth brought to the performance of the main antagonist, General Thade, just really great. And the fact that, you know what?
Acknowledge that's a great name for a villain, Thade.
I know, it is. Oh, by the way, Tiki.
Yes.
Give me a second. I got to turn my camera on for this. Because I had, because speaking of Thade, well, and I did an unboxing of this on the Little Blue channel. I got my hands on this.
Give me one second. Let me take out the thumbnail for a second.
Dang it! I hate the camera angle. Like, I can't flip the camera.
Come on, I got it. I got you.
They can see it. I know they can see it.
Yeah, they can see it. Yeah, that is cool.
You? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Dang it! I hate the. Okay, all right. Put the thumbnail back on, because yeah.
No, you're good. You're good, man. I think we get the point. We get.
Yeah. So I have. Yeah, there we go. So I had gotten my hands on the General Thade action figure a couple of years ago, and again, I did an unboxing of it on the Little Blue channel. It is on there, of course, and yeah, because I guess that's why, because, you know, me getting my hands on the General Thade action figure, and because I really enjoyed that character, so. And, and I was going to mention this before, yeah, because it dawned on me, because I had it out, showing the figure. I was going to say this, because a very important element that happens. General Thade and his family, they know something that the rest of the ape colony don't. And if they knew this, it would change it would change history and what the apes are like, and how they worship their god, just like how it is in the original. This, like, whom they worship, and it's revealed. Well, there was one chimp that was a test pilot and such on the space station that Mark Wahlberg's character was on, and where they travel to, pretty interesting, and what they discover happens to be the space station that Mark Wahlberg's character was on, and so on. Also, the fact that two legendary actors and who were in the original Planet of the Apes films, Charlton Heston and Linda Harris, because Linda Harris is credited in the film, but Charlton Heston is not. And I guess that made sense because, well, him being in that ape makeup, and I guess that leaves audiences like wondering and realizing that, oh, that's Charlton Heston. And yeah,
I actually think it's pretty cool that he's uncredited. I kind of agree that it's a nice Easter egg if you're willing to look for it.
And especially for the hardcore Planet of the Apes fans. So yeah, so again, Charlton Heston making an uncredited cameo appearance in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes as General Thade's sick, dying father. And, well, of course, General Thade's father knows the secret, of course, and pointing to his son to break a vase that has a gun, human gun. And that's one thing that's a part of this secret that they know. And of course, it was great that, because right before Thade's father dies, his father letting out, damn them all to hell. I think that was pretty good how he delivered that line, and the rest of the cast well, I mean, from the late Michael Clark Duncan as one of the other top ape soldiers, right hand man of Thade's, playing the gorilla. It's very fitting that Michael he played a gorilla. So and fun fact, I think how did this go again? Because the best I can describe is he had I guess a knee injury or something, just something that had to something happened to his leg or something, and he had to go in the hospital still in that gorilla makeup.
Oh God!
It was I think it was him and someone else. Both had to be rushed to the hospital. And also because and Helen Bonham Carter, this was her first Tim Burton film. Well, and this is where they would first meet, and a relationship would start for both of them. And by the way, because this being Carter's first Tim Burton film, and this being Leslie Marine's last, because she was Tim Burton's girl at the time, and being the Tim Burton lady of his world of filmmaking. So yeah, so this was her last, and also the voice of the mayor from Halloween Town, because him being in there too. David Warner, it's amazing that this was his only Tim Burton film, and he didn't really have that much of a big role. Well, and he plays the role of Carter's character, daughter, plays the father of her character. So, and of course, can't forget to mention and can't leave out good old Paul Giamatti as the one. The one orangutan who sells off human slaves and so on. I know that. Boy, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about him, Tiki.
Oh, I love Paul Giamatti. I love him.
Okay, good. So thanks for the heads up. But yeah, the same goes for me. I mean, who doesn't love Paul Giamatti? I mean, you look at his film acting career, and just from Big Fat Liar. I think is that a correct title of that?
Big Fat Liar. Yeah, Sideways, which Sideways has the 20th anniversary coming up very soon.
Yep, that's right. And also this was a good one of Paul that Paul was in, because Saving Mr. Banks, and him and PL Travels, the relationship that they have and their interactions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And how Pamela Travers considered him the only close friend that she had, and so on. But but Paul Giamatti in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, and he fit very well. And the performance that he brought to that one particular orangutan, that was pretty good. And as for say the rest of the human cast, well, I think they're all good. They're all okay. They're not bad. Because and of course with Mark Wahlberg, because it's Mark Wahlberg. Who doesn't love Mark Wahlberg? Especially because especially take for example
I'm pretty sure this might have been my first exposure to Mark Wahlberg. I'm pretty sure it might have been.
It might have. I think it was too. Yeah. And of course, later on in his acting career, he would be in say the 2 Transformers movies, and most notably, he would be in the Ted films. So, But more
You
than
know
that.
what? Say what you will about The Happening. It's a train wreck of a movie. But I almost feel like The Happening kind of like redefined Mark Wahlberg as an actor.
What? No.
What? No.
This is the way he delivers it. Well, I mean, just how his performance in The Happening, just something about it. Just interesting.
I will take The Happening any day over something like Trap. I will say that much. But anyways.
Okay. Well, okay. So, and by the way, because the wardrobe that Mark Wahlberg has in Planet of the Apes, fun fact, because he did not want to wear the same kind of thing like what Charlton Heston had, what he wore well, I mean, that goes for both of them, the first two Planet of the Apes films, the first and Beneath, because Mark Wahlberg didn't want to remind audiences, and it's true, he didn't want audiences to remember his underwear modeling career. So I think the wardrobe that he had on for this, pretty good, and well, it's the same clothing that he wore when he first arrived, and so on. But yeah, and some confusing stuff that's in this, I can understand, but overall, I still enjoyed it, and of course that twist ending. Of course, I have to talk about the ending. Of course, well, the secret is revealed, and everyone now turns against Thade. Thade is defeated. Mark Wahlberg makes his journey back to Earth, but just so happens when he crashes down to Earth, right at the Lincoln Memorial statue, well, just so happens that, well, he comes face to face with it, and it's the face of Thade. Because basically, even Helen Bonham Carter, she understood it. She got it. She got the twist ending. And she was confused as to why audiences didn't. And I get it too. Basically, Thade beat Mark Wahlberg's character. Thade got
that's what I always got. Yeah.
Exactly. So Thade got there first. So already, Earth was inhabited by apes, and and before Mark Wahlberg got back, and even if he did get back, well, history would not be altered. So, and and also because that ending was supposed to be left off of the possibility of another Planet of the Apes film directly from that. In fact, the cast had signed on for the possibility of another sequel, which ultimately did not happen. Well, I mean, because sadly, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes was not received that great at the box office and such. And even Tim Burton once stated he'd rather jump out of a window than direct a sequel to Apes.
Oh, God.
I know, and it's true. That's what I read. So I don't blame Burton. I don't blame him. Well, I mean, especially because Burton very keen on directing a sequel to something he's already done. So, because from Batman Returns and as of now, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Beetlejuice is the first sequel that we've gotten from him since Batman Returns, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so again, I think it's obvious, Burton very, very.
Oh, you finally made a monkey out of me.
So, yeah, and of course, what would happen next, for Planet of the Apes? Well, the chance of 20th Century Fox trying to bring back the Planet of the Apes with Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes ultimately did not happen. But fast forward, beginning in 2006, they would attempt to bring back the franchise in a fresh new way. And from there on, and as we all know, from Rise, Dawn, and War, and as of now, Kingdom. So, yeah, better than ever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so overall, I don't think Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes is that bad. It is what it is. And yeah, so yeah, that being my number 15 spot, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
All right, my number 14, as you know, is Planet of the Apes as well.
Okay, so what say you on his Planet of the Apes film?
I mean, I pretty much agree with you. I just am a little bit harsher on some certain things.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I keep going back to stuff like pacing. I will say that this is a movie where I was so hyped up about it that I almost kind of feel like there was no way it was going to live up to my hype levels. I don't know. Honestly, I think you made a really good argument for it, and it's one of those things where it's like I feel like this is the first movie on my list personally where, outside of the fact that I think the pacing drags a little bit in the middle in the second act, there's really not that much wrong with this movie. Like you said, Thade is an excellent villain. Genuinely, I think Thade might be one of the best Tim Burton villains, just straight up. Out of any villain in a Tim Burton movie, Thade is up there. Like, he's that good, I think.
Like, literally right next to, like, say, Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't like Mark Wahlberg in this movie. I don't really think he's developed into, like, the post-happening Mark Wahlberg where he's got, like, a screen presence. I just think he's kind of dull in this movie. He's fine. I just think he's not that interesting. But like you said, I think the practical 8 makeup definitely sells this thing a lot. It really goes a long way to to really add to the immersion of everything. I feel like it's one of those movies where it's like I don't really care to sit down and watch the whole thing, but I admire the craftsmanship. I admire the sheer level of detail that went into it. And like you said, I do admire the fact that it isn't just a straight shot-by-shot remake of the original. Like, it does go in its own direction with it. So, yeah, I think this is the first one on my list personally where I can say, like, this is emphatically a good movie, like a solid 7 out of 10 for me. All right.
Okay, good.
So, what is your number 14?
Well, this was already brought up a little, early on and such, like where you ranked it and so on. So, for me, my number 14, Mars Attacks.
Oh, okay. Interesting that we both have it in the not in the top 10. I respect that. All right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I have to say about Mars Attacks, well, I can't deny it. There's no denying, because so many, like, stuff happening, especially with the characters, different, like, the stories that are going on with each of these characters, and because this movie, this one Tim Burton film having a really top billed cast. Because so many familiar faces that are in this film, from DeVito, Nicholson, Glenn Close, Warren Beatty's wife. Do you know her name? Her name slipped out of my head.
Mia Farrow.
She's the wife. She's the wife of Warren Beatty. Who plays, like, the fortune teller or something. Because, like, the redhead chick.
I'm sorry, I can't say off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, like, her character being, like, married to the other character that Jack Nicholson plays in Vegas. So, but anyway, so her, and as I mentioned, she's the wife of Warren Beatty. And Pierce Brosnan, aka James Bond, and and of course Tom Jones, Martin Short. So many familiar faces in this. It's amazing. I think because what the film had to offer, and not just with the top billed cast, but just, like, the story and so on. Not bad. And because, again, for those who do or do not know, Mars Attacks being based off of a series of trading cards that I would assume that probably Burton had to have had those during his childhood. I would assume, and and that's when thinking of the idea of possibly doing a movie adaptation of those trading cards and presenting it to Warner Brothers, and and fun fact, originally the Martians were supposed to be stop motion, but due to I think it was one of the big reasons why they dropped the idea of them being stop motion was because of their glass clear domes. I think that was one of the reasons. Although they still used the practical inside interiors of their ships. Because I think it's obvious that they were going to be used for those stop motion puppets of the Martians. But when they dropped the idea of doing stop motion puppets of the Martians and went with CG Martians, well, again, they still used what was intended for the stop motion puppets. They still kept those practical inside interiors of the Martians UFOs. And by the way, the design and look of those flying saucers, so classic, like vintage looking and stuff like that. And I think I were to assume that they were inspired by the look of the flying saucers in Attack of the Flying the one film that one film where the flying saucers were stop motion. They were done by Ray Harryhausen. That one, I think it's obvious when you look at those ships in that one and the ones in Mars Attacks. There's quite a resemblance. And what Ray Harryhausen brought to those particular looking flying saucers, like in his opinion, like having a flying with a propeller and such, like an airplane, like one was going like up, the one up top and the bottom the one up top was going this way and the one on the bottom the other way, and obviously having them the reason like they fly, so like they're propellers, very clever. And how like those guns, how they come out of the flying saucers in Mars Attacks, just like how it was in the one film that Ray Harryhausen did. Well, not to mention because Ray Harryhausen is one of Burton's idols, so it really shows. But and then the music and score. The music and score is definitely one of the highlights of the movie. Of course, being done by Danny Elfman, which, by the way, Mars Attacks was the first Tim Burton film where Danny DeVito would reunite with Burton. Because they didn't work. They didn't get to work with each other for a while, especially after The Nightmare Before Christmas. And Elfman did not do the music and score for Ed Wood. Instead, it was Howard Shore, who would go on to do the music and score for the Lord of the Rings films. Yeah. So when it came to Mars Attacks, that's when they did reunite, Burton and Elfman. And yeah, again, the music and score that Elfman brought to Mars Attacks was so good. I don't think so. You didn't talk about, like, Tiki, how do you feel about the music and score that Elfman brought to Mars Attacks?
I mean, I honestly, I think it's fitting of the vibe and the genre. I don't think it's like one of Elfman's most memorable scores, but I do think it very much fits into the tone of being like a 1950s, like large scale science fiction alien movie. It works. It's definitely authentic. It definitely feels authentic would be the word I would use for it.
Yeah, and I think Mars Attacks was one of Elfman's first movies where it was something science fiction. Mars Attacks definitely shows that. Well, Elfman, he's quite good at doing music and scores for some science fiction. Yeah. So. And also, I mean, especially like the opening credits. That was definitely, I think, that's definitely a highlight in that. Just like a cold opening with that music and score and the choir. And
sure.
And all the ships, like dozens of Martians from Mars making their way to Earth. And yeah. And, the Martians, as we all know, their iconic language, ack, ack, ack. Because, fun fact, the writers weren't sure what the Martians were going to sound like. So they just wrote in ack, ack, which that's what ultimately turned out to be in the final film, is that being their language. I mean, them, of course, like the scientists, like, translating their language into English. And and by the way, because, Frank Welker, he did the voice of the Martians. So, and I were to assume, like, at times we heard them in English. So, greetings, I am the Martian ambassador, and so on. And the fact is, they say that they came in peace. It seemed like it at first, but nope, not really, because basically they're just assholes, just blowing shit up. So, so, And each of the characters, a good chunk of them, sadly meeting their demise. People, even I forgot to mention them. The rest of the top
I
billed
mean, that's
cast,
what I'm saying, dude. This movie, it's got a cast that's so stacked, it's almost to the movie's detriment. Like, all these people are legends, but they don't collectively have that much to do, honestly.
and some of them would soon become legends, especially two, Natalie Portman and Jack Black.
Oh my god. Oh, I totally forgot Jack Black was in this movie. Oh, you're
Tiki,
right. Oh, that's wild.
I think Tiki. I think that goes for some other people. They seemed like. I think it's obvious that they seem to forget, like, say, Jack Black and Natalie Portman were in Mars Attacks. And you know what? Keep in mind, because Natalie Portman, she was in this right before she would do something else big time science fiction. Although it,
of course.
Let me get this out. It's really space fantasy, and that, of course, being Star Wars. So
yes,
yeah. So before Star Wars, she was in Mars Attacks. So, and Jack Black, God, because we know what he's done now. But before all that, because he was in like, say, Mars Attacks.
Jack Black would eventually go to Star Wars.
Say what you will. I don't think Jack Black was that bad in being in the Star Wars franchise. So
I think I just think it's a fun meme. Honestly, I don't think it's good or bad. I just think it's silly.
Yeah.
It's for just Jack Black being silly. There's no harm in it, really.
No, of course not. For one thing, it would be awesome if, like, Jack Black was voicing, like, and if it were considered, like, maybe he can play another character in Star Wars, or maybe this time he can voice, like, maybe an alien or a robot or something. Either one works. Yeah, but so again, like, my point being is, like, before he did a buttload of stuff that we all know that he's done. You know what? People also seem to forget that he was the voice of one of the saber-toothed cats in the first Ice Age film, Zeke. So.
Oh, I forget. Yeah, you're right. I totally do forget that too.
The one that's kind of like a bit full of himself, like, come back. He said, "Come back with the baby, or don't come back at all." That's him. So. And if anybody were to recognize, that's Jack Black's voice. But anyways, so
freaking walk down memory lane, dude.
Mm-hmm. So before all that, well, again, he was doing Mars Attacks, and it's true when I say this, he was also the main antagonist of the Never-Ending Story 3.
Oh man, of course. Which I have definitely never seen. So
yeah, I mean, I've seen the Nostalgia Critics review. You are definitely not missing out that much. Don't waste your time watching it. Even if you are if you're very curious, that's all that matters. But also, like, I did forget to mention them too, Michael J. Fox and Sarah Jessica Parker. And, well, Mars Attacks being Sarah Jessica Parker's second Tim Burton film, because the first one she did was, of course, Ed Wood. And Michael J. Fox, well, this was his only Tim Burton film. And actually, this technically was his last on-screen appearance in a movie, because by that point, suffering from what's the condition that he has?
Parkinson's.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know why that slipped out of my head. Yeah, Parkinson's. By that point, he was suffering from Parkinson's, and on camera, it's in the film, because when the Martians first arrive on Earth, and everybody is there, and of course, Michael J. Fox and Sarah Jessica Parker, the reporters that they are for different TV studios. Michael J. Fox's character just being jittery and shaking over the sight of the Martians, that was actually Michael J. Fox himself shaking because of Parkinson's. And they just used that, and you know what? It did work, because it's very understandable, like, the sight at seeing something like that in person, like, definitely. And I especially love it because when the Martians first come out, and, like, right before we see them on screen, they're right there, because, well, one shot of President Nicholson just preparing for the sight of the Martians, and then seeing the Martians come out, and, General Casey, reasonable reaction, gee whiz, because, yeah, it's very true. Just seeing the Martians living and breathing and so on. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, because I've mentioned Jack Nicholson, yeah, because, well, Jack Nicholson, like, well, when it came to Mars Attacks, by that point, everybody wanted to work with Tim Burton. And Mars Attacks, I think, is a good example because, well, and especially like Jack Nicholson, he had a great time working with Burton on Batman, and he was willing to work with Tim Burton once again. And of course, when came Mars Attacks and when Jack Nicholson was cast, yeah, I think Jack Nicholson as the president. I don't think he was that bad. I think he was a pretty good president in this.
I
And
think he's
well,
definitely a highlight of the performances. He's one of the more memorable characters, I would say.
yeah, and some of the speeches that he gives as the president, and especially one of them that he says is a fact. We're in the dawn of a new era. That stuff, yeah, because he makes a good point and what would come next. And also the fact that not only does Jack Nicholson play the president, he plays another character over in Vegas who is a hotel like casino guy. You know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It, it was pretty funny because when President Nicholson is making a broadcast statement, and just so happens because the other character that Jack Nicholson plays has seen this on TV, seen his other self, like, what the hell's he talking about, and so on. But, that was I think that was kind of funny. And you know what? Originally, Michael Keaton was considered for that role, which I think would have been good. But but in the end, yeah, Jack Nicholson got 2 roles, and apparently, I heard another fun fact. It was stated that Jack Nicholson you could not kill off Jack Nicholson, and well, the exception was having both of his characters be killed. So, yeah, and just the rest of the characters and what goes on with them, and especially What's in Face, who is working at the casino. He's the guy as who's King Tut, the bodybuilder guy. I think he was not that bad, and well, and again, Tom Jones's appearance. I think it was pretty good, kind of fitting and where it's going, and how he teams up with the others and they escape, and well, and yeah, I think because in reality, Tom Jones knows how to fly a plane, and well, yeah, because they get on a plane, a jet, and so on, making their escape, and of course, the ultimate defeat of the Martians, of course, the Indian love call.
Mm-hmm.
It works. I think it does work in this. What say you, Tiki, on the Indian love call?
Well, I kind of said this, but I think it's a little bit like it's definitely the most broad thing that Burton has probably put to film up until this point in his career, for better or worse. I think it works for the most part. I think it's just a little bit silly.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was a kid, I definitely I couldn't believe how funny it was, and now I'm just like, oh, that's fun. That's fun. You know what I mean?
Right. And even if you know this, because we know the Martian ambassador, wearing red, and so the one that's wearing purplish, what's his position? Do you remember?
Nah, I got to be honest with you, man. It's been a while since I've even watched this movie. So it's not that
I guess
in my head.
I think it's obvious. I guess probably because he's a top, he's the leader or something like that. So the Martian ambassador being in second. So yeah. And oh yeah, because you didn't talk about this, Tiki, when you talked about Mars Attacks. The Martian girl.
She's a highlight for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely. I would say she's definitely the most authentically Burton thing that we have in this movie.
Absolutely, especially that the wardrobe of the dress and such of the Martian.
Oh yeah, iconic.
That's definitely a Tim Burton style right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, at least because of course there are some Tim Burton styles in it. I mean, a little bit on the Martians. I mean, of course they still have to just about look how they were designed in the trading card series, but yeah, still a little slight difference, just a little teeny bit. But yeah, so the Martian girl, yeah, being a highlight. And I read this in the trivia. Martin Short flirting and taking the Martian girl around the White House, and one room that they go in and there's a fish tank. Because I read this in the trivia, especially as of now. That fish tank, and with the fish that's in that tank, pretty much it's the fish that we would see in Finding Nemo. Yeah. So again, the Martian Girl being a highlight, and again, the Indian Love Call song, and especially because when we see and a little montage of the Martians' ultimate defeat, and with that song playing, and um, a little bit of a romance that happens between Pierce Brosnan and Sarah Jessica Parker's character. Well, in fact, this was another highlight too. I mean, especially for Sarah Jessica Parker's character, their heads, and like especially Sarah Jessica Parker's head being on a dog, her pet Chihuahua. Do you have nothing to say on that?
Okay, I got to be honest. I'm just like we're at the 2-hour point, so we just need to kind of be a little bit more like.
Okay. Well,
I'm sorry. I don't mean
I'm pretty much by this point done with Mars Attacks, but yeah, just overall, Mars Attacks. It is what it is. I mean, it's not really one of Tim Burton's top best films, but like I said, it is what it is. It's not god awful, but there's just some stuff about Tim Burton's Mars Attacks that's so memorable, and just like, what more do I have to say? Yeah, so that being my number 14 spot, Mars Attacks.
Okay. All right, and just I don't know, man. I just don't like making these more than 2 hours long. So let's just try and kind of power through the rest of these. So, yeah. Okay. Number 13 for me is going to be another movie. Like, we're very much in the 7 out of 10 tier for me right now, and I think that's going to pretty much be the case for the next 3. Actually, probably the next 4. Like, going into the top 10 for me are all going to be 7 out of 10s. But this is actually the first time I've seen this movie. I was in the camp that it looked like an X-Men clone, and it kind of is. I've never read the book it's based on, but my number 13 is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Yes. I think Ava Green does a lot of heavy lifting in this movie. I think the cast in general is really, really good. You got Terrence Stamp in here. I think all the kids are actually really, really well cast. They actually do have a good screen presence to them. My whole thing with this movie is that, like, I haven't read the book. And I do feel like it's one of those book adaptations where it's like it's throwing a lot at you. It kind of reminds me of the Percy Jackson adaptations in that way, where it's like it's throwing a lot at you. And if you haven't read the source material, you might not necessarily get everything that it's trying to do. Like, there's a ton of lore here, it feels like. And I just feel like as an audience member, I was like, okay, like, I get what this movie's trying to go for. I'm liking it. I feel like if I would have read the book, I would get more out of this movie, though. But as it stands now, like I said, I think Ava Green absolutely, like, this is probably Ava Green is an actress where it's like I've never really disliked her in anything, but she's never really blown me away in anything either.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest with you, this might be the first time she's legitimately kind of blown me away. I really think she had just a very captivating, almost Mary Poppins-esque screen presence to her. Like,
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah. Like, as much as I do love Emily Blunt as Poppins, I do wonder how Ava Green would do as Poppins. I think she could really
Oh yeah. Imagine that, yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? So yeah, again, because I'm not familiar with the books at all, I feel like large portions of this movie kind of went over my head a little bit. But for what it is, I did like it. I think the setting is really interesting. You kind of got that sort of like remote kind of mountainous setting that definitely plays into the vibe of it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked it. I definitely would give it a solid 7 out of 10. I would say it's definitely I wasn't expecting to rank it this high going into my first watch of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, you're number 13.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and say this. Miss Peregrine, it's not going to be on my list for part 1, so...
Okay, fair enough.
Go ahead and give a heads up / spoiler alert, but anyway. So again, number 14 for me was Mars Attacks, right?
Yes.
Just making sure because of the counting and numbers. Okay. Number 13. Well, I mean, it's up to it's just about up there, like where it. I think by maybe like 13 or 12, kind of looking good and such. Well, but again, like for me and how I view my
I
list.
mean, you started in a more positive place than I did. Like, I'm basically now to the point where you started at you're 19. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a good movie.
Okay. So number 13 for me. Yeah, you already did number. Did you already do your number 13?
Yes, my number 13 was Peregrines.
Almost, yeah. Making sure it's sidetrack and such, but anyways. So number 13 for me, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, okay. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory being in my top 10 might be one of my hottest takes of the whole list, but it is in my top 10. I will say that much.
I will say that because for me doing my list, it was kind of almost not easy. So as I've explained, I don't have a hatred for any of his films that are considered not that great. So anyways,
not only do I not have hatred for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I straight up don't get the hatred of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I'm with you. Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, because you brought that up, I'll go ahead and say this and as I said when I talked about Planet of the Apes, because both Planet of the Apes and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Tim Burton's own versions of those stories, they're not direct remakes. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is not a direct remake of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. It's just another movie adaptation of the book, and not to mention
more direct adaptation of the book.
Yes, absolutely. My mom, even another shout out to my mom, because she pointed out to me, and she knows this, that Burton sometimes sticks close with the books, and in this case, like, yeah, he sticked closely.
The Oompa Loompa songs, like as wildly different as they are, stylistically, they are literally straight out of the text.
Yes. But there are I remember surprisingly I do remember not all of the texts and lyrics that were in the book. They're not really not the entirety of them are in the movie, but and it's very clever because and you know what? They're the only songs that we get from Tim Burton's Charlie film is just from the Oompa Loompas. Now, of course, in the original,
the Willy Wonka song from the beginning.
Yeah, that too. So
which, let's face it, that song is iconic.
It's the film's own, it's a small world. It's a small world wannabe. Yeah, so that too. I don't know why, because I don't think of that either. But anyways, but of course, mainly the Oompa Loompa songs. I mean, the original movie version of the story, Willy Wonka, because pretty much Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, although it does stick with what goes on in the story, the element and so on, like where it goes, like golden tickets, 5 children, yada yada. But Willy Wonka was basically Hollywood's rendition of the story, but I don't know. I know what I'm trying to say, but a bit difficult to put it words. But anyways, my point being is that when looking at the original Willy Wonka, it had its own list of songs, original songs written. I only have 2 favorites from Willy Wonka: Candyman and Pure Imagination. Those are 2 of my only favorites. I don't know about you, Tiki, because if you have, what would be your favorites, but
those are pretty much the go-tos, I would say. Yeah.
There's just something about those 2 songs, wholesome and just so on. But anyways, and the Oompa Loompa songs in the original, just Oompa Loompa.
I'm gonna be straight up with you. I do not really care for the Oompa Loompa songs in the original. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel the same way.
They are.
I feel the same way too. That they're fine to me too. So almost kind of catchy, especially how the Oompa Loompas sing in particular. But Anyways, but yeah,
But
so
honestly, for me, I prefer the Deep Roy Oompa Loompas. I'm sorry, I just do.
and they look like regular people,
Uh-huh.
unlike how the Oompa Loompas looked in the original.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, no hard feelings on the original Oompa Loompas, how they looked in the original movie adaptation. But
But let's face it, though, Lumpy will always be the number one Oompa Loompa.
which one's Lumpy?
Hugh Grant.
Oh, that was his name. Okay, I almost forgot. Yeah. Um, yeah, Hugh Grant was, yeah. As of
I'm
the stream,
kind of
as
being sarcastic, but not really. I
okay.
love Hugh Grant.
Who doesn't? We all love Hugh Grant. Yeah, especially I know my parents
Or
love
I'm
Hugh
sorry,
Grant.
I think his name was his name Lofty?
Sounds
I
about
don't think his name was
maybe
what?
maybe I don't
Yeah.
know. I can't remember. And as of this stream, I still haven't seen Wonka.
Oh, all right. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
So as of this stream. So, anyways, so how the Oompa Loompas look in Tim Burton's Charlie? They look like actual people and such. And you know what? This was one of Deep Roy's like biggest works. Got to give him credit because he did great, but playing all those Oompa Loompas. And like another way to put it, a highlight of his acting career, pretty much. Like
Absolutely.
his top biggest. Well, in that same year, Deep Roy, Johnny, and Helena, because they would be in Charlie and also in Corpse Bride. Like that was a record for Burton having two movies of his come out the same year. So just a few, and especially a few months apart from each other. But anyway, so yeah, so Deep Roy, really good at playing all the Oompa Loompas. Not to mention the singing voices of the Oompa Loompas were all done by Danny Elfman. I don't know if anybody knew that, especially you
I
two
do
people.
that, and that's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very clever. One more thing to mention about the songs, and then I'll continue. How the songs are done with the text, and taken from the books, and the style of music and how they're done. And best said by a nostalgia critic, yeah, because Augustus Gloop is a '50s mambo. Violet Beauregard is a '60s disco.
Like British Invasion, almost. Or no,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Veruca Salt is British Invasion.
I think, well, how nostalgia critic said it, like a '70s hippie love song or something. And then finally, Mike TV, and again, best said by a nostalgia critic, an '80s rock. So very clever, and different. The decades of music and just going with, so very fitting, and I think it totally works. And yeah, and also because how the interior of the factory looks on the outside. Well, no offense to the original movie adaptation. This one far better, much better than the original.
I mean, I think Gene Wilder is obviously the thing that kind of sets the original apart. Like,
yeah,
I will defend what Johnny Depp is doing in this movie. I do think it's genuinely like off-putting in a way that's appropriate for the character. I think I definitely prefer Johnny Depp to Timothy Chalamet when it comes to Wonkas. But yeah, you can't touch Gene Wilder. Other than Gene Wilder, I honestly think almost every element of this movie is better than the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which I know is like such a spicy take. I know, but like I genuinely believe that.
Yeah. Also, like, I have to mention this because you have seen the nostalgia correction, like old versus new of both films of Willy Wonka. Okay, so in case you had forgotten some stuff that I will mention, well, as I mentioned, nostalgia critic describing how the songs for those kids are done. Another thing he mentions as well, because when it came to who is the better Wonka, and when talking about Johnny Depp's Wonka, well, you know what? I mean, I guess I can kind of see it, but I mean, luckily, after he says this, I don't have to think of this, like how he Of course, it's a joke. Nostalgia critic commenting at one point, like saying, "Why does he look like he's a mix between Marilyn Manson and that Russian chick from Indiana Jones 4?"
I love that's so hyper specific. It's true though. It's totally true.
It makes a good. He makes
Ivanka Slonko, I think is her name. So
Elenia Spalko.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Dr. Spalko and so on. Yeah,
Spalko. Yes.
So, yeah, usually Doug is quite good at that, like combining some things and just it's like very quickly like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Linus and the alter ego Minus on Dreamland. Well, that.
He does look like 2000's era Michael Jackson. I honestly think that's probably the most direct visual comparison.
Minus is like. I'm talking about Shark Boy and Love Girl. Like I'm talking about the character Minus. Who's.
I'm sorry. Aquatad in the comments pointed out the Willy Wonka looks like Michael Jackson.
Okay.
No, I've never seen Shark Boy and Lava Girl, so I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about right now. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I won't. Well, you know what? Because you've not seen it, I won't bother. Unless you want me to, nostalgia to comment.
Well, like I said, we were kind of trying to keep this. To,
okay. I get it.
Yeah.
So, all right, because I thought, but no, you haven't. But anyway, so yeah, that was a good joke from Doug. Marilyn Manson and Spalko combined their love child, Willy Wonka. That's me that I said. But anyways, again, because the interiors of the factory, again, no offense to the original, better than the original. I mean, especially as Doug pointed out, the chocolate river.
The chocolate room is so much better. Yeah, it's so much better.
And it looks like the chocolate is something you can eat and drink. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Unlike the original, because as best said by Doug, it looks like feces.
It does, straight up.
Oh my god!
Now I will say the actual tunnel scene in the original is definitely more memorable, but yeah, the river itself is visually more appealing in this version.
Yeah. Now,
there's a lot I can talk about when we get to this movie. In my top 10. So
yeah, we can't wait to hear about that. But
yeah.
I don't think so, because in the original book it didn't have like what's in Willy Wonka, that tunnel sequence. I don't think so.
I don't think so. No.
So you know what, and again, that shows Burton staying close to the original source material in the books, and in this case with Charlie. Not having the tunnel in.
Shout out to Freddie Highmore, of course.
Freddie Highmore,
the actor who plays Charlie.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, and look what would come next for him, like in his later acting, in his years later.
I am a surgeon. I am a surgeon, Dr. Hahn.
There you go. Yeah.
And yes, Norman, more importantly, as Blue Dragon 5 points out. Norman.
Yep, Norman Bates and the Good Doctor, so.
Mr. Surgeon Man.
Yes. Well, yeah, because before all that stuff, because when he was just a kid, just playing the titled character Charlie, and a year before he did Charlie, because he would work with Johnny Depp in Finding Neverland. And by the way, because after Finding Neverland, it was Johnny Depp who recommended Freddie be cast as Charlie, because Johnny,
he had a hell of a performance in Finding Neverland, man. He really blew it out of the water.
Yeah, and especially
for as young as he was.
Yeah, and especially that goes for the chemistry and interactions that go on between his character and Johnny Depp's character in Finding Neverland. Yeah, great chemistry. And
I need to rewatch Finding Neverland. It's been a minute.
Yeah, me too. I need to rewatch that too. It is
actually
good.
Isn't that movie? I'm pretty sure it's 20. I'm pretty sure this is its 20th anniversary.
It is. This year is its 20th anniversary.
Oh, we need to do something for that. All right. Anyways,
sign me up for that.
Yeah,
definitely. I'd definitely be down, and I have to rewatch it. But anyways, so it was great to see, and that really shows because Johnny Depp such a sweet guy, wrongfully accused, but that's another story. But
Yeah, let's not touch that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just, but just to point it out just a little, because
Mm.
so much that Johnny has brought and such, and again, just poor Johnny, what would happen years later. But just overall, because it was great to see that that he had a great time working with Freddie, and how he was he wanted to and considered that maybe he should play the title character. And you know what? Because I think what Freddie brought to the role of Charlie in this was pretty good, and also because the family of Charlie Buckets, from the grandparents on their mom and dad's side, and yeah, and also because the late David Kelly, who plays Grandpa Joe, I
Mm.
thought he was pretty. I think he was pretty good too. And actually, because originally the late Albert Finney, he was considered for Grandpa Joe, but when Burton came into production, he replaced Albert with David Kelly. And well, and because Albert had worked with Tim Burton before on Big Fish,
Of
but
course.
yeah, so because Burton had recast Albert for David, and to make things up for Albert, he gave Albert the voice role of Victoria's father in Corpse Bride, which that voice role was turned down by Sam Neill, and thus it was given to Albert Finney. So that was great to see. And you know what, Albert Finney, he was good in Corpse Bride, definitely. And David Kelly as Grandpa Joe, fantastic. Yeah, so and especially like the stories that David Kelly's Grandpa Joe gives to Charlie, and how we visually see them, and especially because the one story about the Indian prince, and when at a certain point workers became jealous of Wonka.
Mm.
They began stealing. They began sending in spies, and how we did get an appearance of Slugworth, but very different, unlike the original movie adaptation. And yeah, the whole thing of 5 children coming in, and each of the kids in Charlie, pretty good, I'd say. Yeah, definitely. And how they're portrayed in this, and Mike TV in this is with his dad, and for Violet, she's with her mom.
Mm.
So yeah, because in the
Great
original,
Missy Pyle is Violet's mother.
yeah, Missy Pyle,
Mm-hmm.
great actress. She's done so much, and she wouldn't.
Yeah, Eli, I'm kind of with
Was,
Dragon here. Can we
okay. Isn't she?
As I said, I'm trying to keep this to we need to.
I know. I was going to quickly say, wouldn't Missy Pyle be considered a character actor?
Yes, she would.
It just popped in my head because I think it's obvious, but
Yeah.
And also Christopher Lee's appearance in Charlie, that was great. I mean, my mom told me that probably the reason that we got Wonka's backstory, which did turn out pretty good, was because I think Burton just had to add in more time to the film. So, but overall, I mean, Christopher Lee playing Wilbur Wonka, who was a dentist, forbid his son to eat chocolate, and look what would come next. Yeah, and it was a great reunion between father and son. And you know what? Turns out that Wilbur liked what his son was doing, because he had newspaper articles and such hung on the walls. So yeah, yeah. Just overall, I could go on talking about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I know you will, Tiki. But yeah, Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, maybe not really one of Tim Burton's top best films that he's directed and such, but at the same time, it's pretty good, and maybe closely a good movie adaptation to the original book, and how it does stick closely to the original source material, unlike the original film. But yeah, so that being my number 13 spot, Charlie.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of speed run through these last two. Let's see. So number 12, and keep in mind, man, I've been out of the house all day, so I'm exhausted too.
Yeah.
I wanted to get home 2 hours earlier than I actually did get home. Mm-hmm. All right. My number 12 is going to be Sleepy Hollow, and I would say now we are in the 7.5s for me. I respect this movie a lot. I really do. I think this movie is it honestly kind of pained me to not put this in the top 10. I will say that much. Like, this is definitely the first movie where I wanted a spot in the top 10 for it, but I just couldn't justify it out of honestly, it probably would have been Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that would have been swapped out. And here's the thing, I respect this movie a lot. I don't necessarily think this movie is the most rewatchable. I think it's got a lot of much like the complaints that I've had with a lot of these lower tier Burton movies, the bottom half. I shouldn't even say lower tier, just the ones that kind of fall outside of the top 10. I think the plot is maybe a little bit too convoluted for its own good. I like the lore that they set up with the Headless Horseman. I think that Ichabod Crane being like a weird detective guy is interesting. It's certainly not the Ichabod Crane that I grew up with. It's certainly not calling back to the Disney version of Ichabod Crane in a lot of ways, but I think it's an interesting interpretation regardless.
Yeah.
Of course, you got Christopher Walken in those flashbacks, and he's incredible. I mean, he's genuinely, like, we were talking about great Burton villains, and I think you got to put Walken Headless Horseman up there. I do think that Christina Ricci, I love Christina Ricci, generally speaking. Like, she's very, very talented. She usually fits in very well to these types of movies. But her role here, and honestly, the Katrina Van Tassel character has always kind of been tricky, where it's like, I like Katrina Van Tassel a little bit more in the Disney version, where you can kind of tell she's a little bit more opportunistic. Whereas here, I just kind of feel like she's just playing the love interest, and it's just, she's doing a decent job with it, but it's a little on the bland side for me as a performance. I will never forget the visual of the tree with all the heads in the trunk. I will never forget that.
Oh, yeah.
I saw this movie when I was about 10 years old. That visual will always, like, that was one of the most hardcore visuals I had ever seen up to that point in the movie.
Was Sleepy Hollow, because you were 10, was Sleepy Hollow your first R-rated film?
You know what? It might have been. It very well might have been. I think it probably was, honestly.
Probably one of them, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely either that or The Shining. Definitely, because The Shining I saw at a very young age as well.
I kind of did too, just a little.
And then, as Dragon knows, Jason X is the first R-rated movie that I saw in theaters, which is a fact that I wear with a badge of honor. You better believe that.
I can't remember what I can't remember what my first R-rated film was on the big screen.
Definitely Jason X.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, not really a lot to add there. I think I really like the style of Sleepy Hollow. I really like the the over the top, like, neon red blood and stuff like that. Again, I just kind of feel like the story's a little bit too convoluted for its own good, and I think Christina Ricci is honestly one of the more boring pieces of like examples of a Tim Burton love interest in a movie. Like, I just don't really think she adds a lot to the movie. If anything, I think her presence kind of drags it down a little bit. But it is a hell of a ride, and it is very original. I honestly wish I liked it a little bit more than I actually did, because I think the good qualities of this just are really fantastic. All right, Eli, I'm going to give us a set time limit here, okay? We're at 2 hours, 18 minutes. Let us not go over 2 hours and 30 minutes.
I'll keep it brief, I promise.
2 hours, 30 minutes. That's the cutoff, my friend, all right?
Right.
Okay. Number 12.
Yeah. And very quickly, Sleepy Hollow, it will be my top 10. Yeah, wait till
Not surprised. All right.
All right, so let me go. Okay. Number 12, you say?
Number 12, yes.
Right. Okay. Batman Returns.
Batman Returns. All right.
Let me guess.
This is going to be in my top 10.
I was literally about to ask. Let me guess. It's in your top 10.
Yes, it is. Another Christopher Walken performance.
Yeah. And I kind of, again, it was not easy for me to, like, how I was doing this list. And I kind of wish but I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, I would have thought of putting it in my top 10, but oh well. As of now, it's okay.
I think it's hard to put both of the Batman movies in the top 10.
Kind of.
That may or may not be a spoiler for my number 11 choice.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, okay. So, we all know that you first saw Batman Returns before seeing the Batman '89.
Yes, correct.
I remember that. So you all did an anniversary stream of Batman '89. Yeah. Okay, so
out of the four of them, I think Batman '89 is probably the one I've seen the least, honestly.
Right. Okay.
And as you probably know, out of the four of them, honestly, my favorite is fucking Batman and Robin. I don't care what anyone says. It's certainly not the best movie, but it is objectively my favorite.
Okay, well, let me talk about Batman Returns.
Sure.
I'll be brief. Batman Returns, I'll go ahead and say this. It is my all-time favorite Batman film. I'm sorry, but it is. Yeah, I'm entitled to my opinion and which Batman film is my favorite. But you know what? I like what Batman
Even
Returns.
Though you have Batman '89 technically ranked higher.
I know, and because there's no denying it is one of Tim Burton's top masterpieces. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. All right, but my point being on Batman Returns, again, this being my all-time favorite Batman film, what Batman Returns delivers really good, and how this time we get the Penguin and Catwoman, and the performances that Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito bring, fantastic, memorable, and you know what? Because they don't really become bad guys, especially for the Penguin, not becoming a bad guy for the hell of it, but how far he's pushed, later on in the film. Michael Keaton once again returning as the Dark Knight, a much better looking suit. No offense to the first one. Same Batmobile, of course. Good to see. Michael Gough once again returning as Alfred. Max Schreck, Christopher Walken, of course. Christopher Walken. And even like Max Schreck's son, the actor who plays his son, doing an impression, obviously, of Christopher Walken,
which is incredible. Yes,
it is. That's nice. To detail on what the actor delivered. So, what's in face? Yeah, The action and climax that are in this. One of my favorite moments would have to be where the Penguin. He takes control of the Batmobile. Now I think that was a pretty cool sequence right there. Gentlemen, start your screaming. That was a great way to start that off from Penguin. And just Penguin's backstory, and he had a tragic life, especially because, the fact that Penguin's parents literally being Pee Wee Herman and what's her face, from Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So. The waitress and such, and at the dinosaurs. The music and score that Elfman brings, very beautiful, especially because the climax at the end, and how the movie ends, it's amazing, because nothing intense, nothing really, it's just so emotional, peaceful, and so on, and, the Penguin sadly dying, and Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne, of course, and Alfred driving through the snowy roads of Gotham, and Bruce catching the eye of Catwoman, and Catwoman leaving one of her cats to Bruce, and it is quite touching, and because I guess that's a sign of saying goodbye to Bruce for now. I guess I don't know, but I'm sure you guys get it, but. Anyways, and the fact that, because Batman Returns taking place during Christmas, and keep in mind, because
I love the fact that it's a Christmas movie. Yeah,
and the fact that it came out in the summer of 1992. This isn't the first. So.
It's got a real Shane Black energy to it.
Yeah, true. And take for example, Hocus Pocus, that came out during summertime, and it didn't want to compete with Nightmare. So.
Even recently we had The Haunted Mansion come out in the summer.
Hey, there you go. That's another good example. That's another good example right there.
I don't think that was a good decision by Disney, but yeah, it happened.
Yeah. Well, again, this isn't the first time. So for any Christmassy or Halloweenish film coming out on weird dates. But anyway.
I think Christmas is a little bit more because you got the whole Christmas in July factor.
Yeah, there you go. But I think it came out in June, I think. Yeah, it came out in June of 92. Oh, and I have to, of course, mention this because shout out to my dad, because one thing he cannot stand from Batman Returns is the penguins with missiles strapped to
I
them.
love the penguins with the missiles. I'm sorry.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. Yes, I really think it's a fun visual.
Not according to my dad. So, and I think the same goes for my mom. So, it's like, for a quick example, what really made them like walk out, like this, like wanting to walk out of the theater when seeing Batman and Robin. Suit me up, Uncle Alfred. Oh, they can't stand that.
I love Batman and Robin. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's your opinion. That's nice to see that you like it. Yeah, just overall, Batman Returns. It may not be like, say, the best of Burton's, and you know what? Because, well, it still turned out pretty good, and naturally, and according, and as Doug said it best, naturally, it does have its fans, and me being one of them, of course.
Mhm.
And Warner Brothers just panicked over the results of Batman Returns, and everybody else, the audiences, because of being too dark. But you know what? That's what made Batman Returns good.
That's absolutely what makes Batman Returns what it is. Yeah, is how twisted it is. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, this is true. I'm sure you know this, Tiki. McDonald's was upset over the results of Batman Returns.
Oh, of course. I feel like that's one of the more infamous elements of it. But we let's try to keep it going.
Yeah. If Terminator and Alien got toys and such for kids, why does Batman Returns get in trouble? That's weird. There you go. But yeah, just overall, Batman Returns, it is what it is. I think it's good, and how dark it is, where the story goes, and with our main antagonists, who don't really become antagonists, again, for the hell of it, but yeah, so Batman Returns being my number 12 spot, yeah.
All right. Oh, God, looks like we got some comments here. Let's see.
What was a tweet, however the heck how was it, well, you know who I'm talking about, because he asks what was your number 12, Tiki?
My number 12 was Sleepy Hollow.
Okay, and if you go back and rewatch the stream when it's over and get to number 12, so and if you did fully miss that, but anyways, I mean, I'm sure as though you came in and you heard about a good chunk of what I said about my number 12, but anyways.
All right, so finally, it's funny that you have Batman Returns at number 12, because my number 11 is Batman 89.
Oh.
And I don't know, it might be controversial, but as you know, I've never jived with Batman 89 as much as I have with Batman and Robin. I think that it's a perfectly fine superhero movie. I definitely think, obviously, it's a very important movie in the superhero genre. Obviously.
Absolutely, it definitely is. It's an important film in comic books movie history. So.
Right. There's a few things I don't like about it.
And that is?
Honestly, I don't care about Jack Nicholson Joker, which I know I know that's a hot take. I know
it is a hot take.
I totally get that. I don't like the fact that I'm one of those people that doesn't like the fact that the Joker killed Batman's parents. I don't know. We could argue about that all day. I don't like it. I don't like seeing so much of the Joker, pre-turning into the Joker. I don't like the idea of giving him an origin story. I just think that the Joker works so much better as just kind of that Dark Knight Agent of Chaos, where you're only left to kind of pick up the pieces of what this guy might have been like before turning into the Joker.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's fine. Like, when he is the Joker, he's good. He's entertaining. It's just, I think Heath Ledger definitely, for me, is the definitive Joker, and definitely not Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson's Joker does have a few quotable lines. Wait till they get a load of me. And
he's got good lines. Yeah, but I don't know.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? So.
No, I get that. I get that. He's iconic. I just I don't know. I just think that there's more to a Joker than being quotable. I feel like he's almost a little bit too broad for me. And then also Vicky Vale, just I kind of feel the same way about her as I do about Christina Ricci in Sleepy Hollow, where it's just like she's fine, you know. There's nothing inherently wrong with her. I just think that like she's kind of like in that mold of like she's just here to be a love interest, so the character can have a love interest, you know.
And at Kim, what's her last name? Who at the
Kim
time
Basinger.
who at the time was the wife to Alec Baldwin. And
I'm not thrilled with Alfred letting her into the Batcave. That's another element that I'm not thrilled with Batman like openly killing people. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stuff I'm not thrilled about in this movie is just kind of like established Batman lore stuff that like wasn't really all that established when the movie came out. So it kind of like plays a little bit worse in retrospect. That being said, I mean, let's talk about the good stuff here, because this is my number 11. This is, this did almost crack my top 10. So
it's that close to top.
Yeah. So obviously Elfman's score is freaking fantastic. Elfman's score cooks. Absolutely cooks.
Oh yeah. One of his top best scores.
Production design is incredible. Probably a little bit better in this movie than in Batman Returns. I will admit that. As much as I love Batman Returns, this one just has such an iconic kind of like comic book feel to it.
It does, yeah.
And obviously Michael Keaton, great. I think he's better utilized here than he is in Batman Returns, because Batman Returns is kind of like one of the first superhero movies that really kind of focused on putting the villain sort of front and center almost over the hero. But that being said, Batman Returns, and I will say this much, Batman Returns, there's one movie in between this movie and Batman Returns, so Batman Returns is my number 9.
Yeah.
It's hard to differentiate them, because I think Batman Returns, like, what it lacks in, like, sheer iconicness, I think it makes up for in being a lot more original, a lot more grounded in the source material of what Batman is, a lot more dark and gothic.
Yeah.
I think the two Batman films have always kind of like eluded me as far as like where I place them in Burton's overall filmography. Because I feel like they both kind of like complement each other so well. All right.
Yeah. And I was gonna say this because Kim playing, Vicky Vale, because I remember my mom one time telling me that Kim, she can't act.
Yeah, she's not great. She's
I mean,
she's definitely the weakest performance in that movie for
sure. I'm sure she tried her best, and in any other movies that she was in.
All right, so Eli, let's sum this up in just a few minutes. Let's see. Blue Dragon 5 is shocked at the Joker thing, I assume. Well, you think Batman 89 improved Batman's origin story? I mean, I don't know, man. I've always liked the anonymous factor of Joe Chill. The fact that Joe Chill could be anyone. Yeah. I don't like the whole idea of the Joker and Batman being, like cosmically linked together through the parent's death. I don't know. I think it's a little too much. Anyways, all right, Eli, let's go here. What's your number 11?
I was also going to point out Aquadad also, commented saying, "Tell that to Walking Phoenix."
Yes.
And Dragon gasping, like what? Like that was directed at the Joker, or the fact that number 11 for you is Batman?
I assume he's gasping at the fact that I'm not a fan of Jack Nicholson Joker, just generally speaking.
Yeah, even I'm sure, like, it was heard on the mic. Like, I was just like, come on. Like, Jack Nicholson
I'm sorry.
It's
Jack Napier. Look, the Joker stuff in this movie is good. Like, it's not my favorite Joker stuff, but it's solid Joker stuff. I just don't like the Jack Napier stuff.
Oh, okay. So Dragon did respond. The number 11 being Batman 89.
Oh, okay. My bad, Dragon.
That's what the gasp was directed at. Okay. Even I had a feeling.
If we go by nostalgia critic rules, this is still in my top list.
Oh, you go by nostalgia. You go by Nostalgia Critic rules.
No, I'm just saying, like, if we go one step beyond, this would be my top 11.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to say.
Okay. So number 11 for me is, and see, because I mentioned this earlier, I wish that I could have like kept that in the thumbnail, but it's okay. It still looks good, and with what I slightly changed, but anyways, because like I know you saw it in the original thumbnail, but yeah. So number 11 for me, Frankenweenie.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I was kind of shocked to see that you had this not in your top 10. Honestly,
Like I said,
it's up there for me. I'm not gonna say exactly how high it is. It's not in my top 5, but it's it's up there.
Yeah, it's not in my top 5 either. But like I said a couple of times, doing my list, it was not easy. Not easy. As I've said, I don't hate any single one of his films, even those that are not considered one of his best masterpieces. It's tough. Sometimes it's tough with these top lists, but
Dragon knows the struggle all too well, believe me.
Thank you, Dragon. Yeah, so not the only one, of course, but yeah, it can be tough. So
I'm a masochist, so I just thrive on the hard decisions. I'm like, yes. Mental gymnastics, give it to me.
You seem to be quite easy at that stuff, Tiki, I guess. Oh, Dragon just commented saying, "Loved the last scene Martin Landau had in Frankenweenie." That was pretty good. I mean, you know what? Yeah, because Frankenweenie was Martin Landau's last Tim Burton film. So, okay. So what I have to say about Frankenweenie? Well, obviously, I think for some of us, we all saw the original Frankenweenie, the 1984 live-action short film, which it would make its way to the special edition, like Nightmare Before Christmas DVD, that and Vincent, and with the exception, like, not also having Hansel and Gretel, but anyways. So I'm glad that I did see the original Frankenweenie from '84, and Tiki has no remorse for anything. List making is easy for him.
It's true. It's true.
Okay, Dragon. But anyway,
I would even call myself a list-making whore. That's as far as I would go.
Okay, but anyway, so I saw the original Frankenweenie short film from '84, and because fast forward years later, this time doing a full movie of Frankenweenie, and thus it would be in black and white, of course, but it would also be in stop motion. And you know what? Because this was in the Nightmare Before Christmas DVD, like with Frankenweenie. There's a little introduction with Tim. I wish this would be on YouTube, if anybody would think of uploading this, possibly. But Tim Burton gives a little introduction about Frankenweenie, talking about Frankenweenie, and also mentioning and teasing at the time that there was a planned full-length movie of Frankenweenie. Yeah, because at the time, like, I think this was around...
I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
Oh, you've seen this too?
Yes, I have, yes. That DVD was very common in my sister and I's household.
Nice. I think that was around... Was it 2009 or 8? In between, I think. Like, and with the DVD, that specific DVD.
The DVD, it must have been an anniversary edition. So let's say 2008 obviously. For the 15th. Let's say that.
I think so. That sounds about right. If Dragon wants to chime in on that, in the comments, go ahead. But surely he would know this. Anyways, so I remember this. And, because, fast forward a few years later, and we would officially have a full-length black and white stop motion film of Frankenweenie. And I gotta say, like, what the Frankenweenie movie brings, it follows the same story as it did in the live action short film, but of course with additional stuff, and seen as how this is a movie, more character development and more stuff going on, and the fact that all of Victor's friends, they do the same thing, and they're inspired by what he did, bringing his dog back to life. They start doing the same thing too, like bringing like a giant rat to life, sea monkeys, mummy gerbil or hamster or whatever, and a giant Godzilla-like turtle, acting like Godzilla. And Yeah, and just like how the black and white looks in this, and how the characters look, the models of the stop motion puppets, especially some of them being modeled after other characters. Like Mr. Burgermeister is, obviously named after and modeled after Burgermeister Meisterburger from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And the voice casting is great. The return of Martin Short and Catherine O'Hara, and the fact that Catherine O'Hara has two voice roles, the mother
Mhm.
and the gym teacher, and the kid voice actors, they were good too. I recognize some of them, and 'cause, like the climax as we got in the short film, like going to that like abandoned like park, whatever it is, and with that windmill and there's fire and
Kaiju
such.
turtle.
What's that?
Kaiju turtle.
Okay. Tiki Dragon also says every Saturday Tiki on a street corner saying, "Hey, want me to rank some need culture for you?"
It's
Okay.
some nerd culture, I assume he's saying, but yes, he knows
Yeah.
me too well. That's exactly how I spend my Saturdays.
Yeah. And coming back,
That's as a matter of fact, that's what I was doing before I came here. No, I'm kidding.
okay, and coming back to Martin Landau, because as Dragon said in the comments, because Martin Landau, great, and I think Martin Landau, he was great in voicing that teacher, that science teacher and such. And
I
for a
also
fact,
really love Martin Short's dad character. I genuinely feel like it's one of the most down to earth characters that Martin Short ever performed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it's been a little while since I've seen Frankenweenie, so I will have to go back at some point and watch that. But I mean, I agree. I know I have seen it before, and so again, Martin Landau's the teacher, and not to mention, because fun fact, the science teacher, the puppet and such, the look for the teacher being modeled after Vincent Price. Well, and I'm sure because if Vincent Price would have still been alive, and possibly he would have voiced him, but of course, Martin Landau was very acceptable. And you know what? Because
Vincent Price would have loved to have been in this movie if he was alive for it. He would
absolutely,
have been all over it.
oh yeah, I'm sure it's like how he was originally considered to voice. He was considered to voice Santa Claus in The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I'm sure he would have.
That would have been incredible.
Which would have been incredible, you say?
Yes.
It would have been, to fix Christmas. Of course there is. I'm Santa Claus. But I mean, unfortunately, because due to his poor health and such, and the passing of his wife, sadly, yeah. But at least he did get to work with Burton twice. Vincent, well, technically 3 times. Vincent, Hansel and Gretel, he did an introduction, and his prominent role in Edward Scissorhands. So,
of course,
as the inventor. So, Martin Landau being acceptable, voicing the science teacher, what he brought to the voice role of the science teacher, really good. And again, just the climax, especially when we get to the part where all the creatures that the kids have brought to life, all hell breaking loose, and the blame is put on the dog. And well, of course, like in the original short film, them chasing the dog, and as I said, the windmill, the fire, and because the citizens have change of heart and helping bringing Sparky back to life once again. And not to mention, because like in the original short, Sparky falling for one female dog, and basically that being the Frankenweenie's version of the Bride of Frankenstein. Well, in this case,
I love that idea.
The Bride of Frankenweenie, basically. Yeah. The music and score by Danny Elfman. That was good too, of course. Danny Elfman, he never disappoints with what he brings to the music and score in every one of Tim Burton's films. But, just overall, that's pretty much it. Because, in closing and overall, Tim Burton's Frankenweenie, sadly, not really sadly, because, it's not one of his top bests. I mean, especially since it got overshadowed by Hotel Transylvania at the box office. But at the same time, Frankenweenie is not bad. It is good.
But I'm just gonna just say straight up, Frankenweenie is so much fucking better than Hotel Transylvania. Pardon my French.
Well, I like both. So I definitely like the Hotel Transylvania films. But again, it is a shame that what Hotel Transylvania did, and it beat Frankenweenie. But again, at the same time, Frankenweenie's not bad. It's a pretty good
Hotel
fun...
Transylvania is like, it's a fun cartoon, but like, man, Frankenweenie is just like, it's so much cooler stylistically, though.
Yes. So,
All right.
as I was saying, it's not bad. It's good, cute, wholesome, and what goes on in the story, and the fact that, this being a full-length feature film, there's more to it. Not to mention Frankenweenie having an important part in the history of Tim Burton, because without Frankenweenie, and I know Dragon established this, and how I'm establishing this, without Frankenweenie, we wouldn't have what would come next. And not to mention, without Frankenweenie, this would not have catched the attention of Paul Rubens, and from there on, and the rest is history for Tim Burton. So yeah, and again, it was great to see that Frankenweenie got to have a movie of its own, like full length, more to it, did pretty good, and I think, it is a pretty good film of Tim Burton's, and this being stop motion, and this actually being his third stop motion film that Burton has done, because still like counting The Nightmare Before Christmas, and of course Corpse Bride. So
and obviously the second he directed,
that's what's that now?
I guess third he directed if you count Vincent in the directing category.
Oh yeah, I mean, even though that is a short film, still
yeah,
of course. Yeah, but and so in closing, Frankenweenie, it's great, and that being my number 11.
All right, Eli, do you have your list in front of you?
Well, just very quickly, because the Dragon said it all comes full circle for Burton with Frankenweenie.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fact. That is definitely a fact. My list in front of me. Okay, so back to what you were asking. My list in front. Well, kind of. I did establish this earlier because the way I'm doing it, I have IMDb pulled up, and I have them, and I have the films that I listed from number 19 to 11.
Yeah, so you can recite your list really quick.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, so
just in case anyone missed anything.
Okay. So anybody who missed this, but of course you can of course rewatch this when it's over. But to recap. My list. Number 19, Dark Shadows. Number 18, Dumbo. 17, Big Eyes. 16, Alice in Wonderland. 15, Planet of the Apes. 13, I'm sorry. Sidetrack. 14, number 14, Mars Attacks. 13, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. 12, Batman Returns. And number 11, Frankenweenie.
All right. For me, we have number 19, Alice in Wonderland. Number 18, Dark Shadows. Number 17, Dumbo. Number 16, Mars Attacks. Number 15, Big Eyes. Number 14, Planet of the Apes. Number 13, Miss Peregrine's. It's funny. Whenever I see that title, I just want to call it Miss Peregrine.
Yeah, for short. So.
Miss Peregrine's school for not gifted youngsters.
Uh-huh.
All right. Number 12, Sleepy Hollow. Number 11, Batman 1989. All right. So I would like to thank everyone for joining with us and sticking through this rather lengthy podcast. It was a fun time. Blue Dragon 5, Code Geass, Aquitat. I hope I got that right. Let's see. We also had Teddy in the comments. Theme Park Priest popped up briefly.
Yeah.
Anchorman made a very brief cameo just to say.
Yeah, Anchorman is a friend of mine, and he's a friend of mine, and from the Little Blue channel, we've done video and especially review collabs, so he's a friend of mine.
All right, for sure.
I did announce the stream that we were doing on the Little Blue channel, just so you know.
Okay, so yeah, y'all are awesome, especially for sticking through a podcast that's nearly 3 hours long. We will be back soon with part 2, going over our top 10.
And as Kogias commented, I really like the stream, and I look forward to the next part. Indeed.
All right.
And I definitely want to point this out. Aside from the viewers in the comments, live chat, they had no problem with this, but that goes for you, Tiki. And if Dragon is still in the chat, like, I'm sorry if I was. I do apologize. Like I was talking so much. I mean, I guess that's like. Don't get me wrong.
No,
I know.
I kind of just feel like with this ranking, maybe to keep in mind for the top 10, I feel like it's more about your personal opinions and less about just like going over the movies and kind of like like with the fun facts and stuff. The fun facts are interesting, but I kind of feel like you should save that kind of stuff for like the full on retrospectives and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's true.
It's all good though. Don't beat yourself up about it. I certainly don't want you to feel bad about it. So
I know. Well, I'm just saying, like, and to finish my sentence, like, I know that I was talking a lot, and I wouldn't say, I mean, not intentionally, I wasn't trying to drag and such, but I mean, I can't help it because I like talking so much
but
about.
Eli, are you rushing or are you dragging?
Neither one. Not intentionally.
That's a deep cut. Dragon knows what I'm talking about there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Look, let's wrap this up, man. It's all good. You're fine. You're
all right.
Totally
thank you. Because I just wanted to get that out and to clarify. And yeah, thanks for informing me and assuring me. So
yeah, for sure.
But this was a lot of fun. Like, last things I have to say about this stream. I'm glad that this had just begun. This is keep in mind, viewers, this is part 1. Part 2, which is coming next Saturday, which, yeah, that's the last day of this month. Jeez. Part 2, we're coming at, we've done from 19 to 11 for part 1 now. We'll be coming next Saturday, part 2, to our top 10. And I think it'll be interesting with what happens with each of our top 10 lists and such. And for this one, it was a lot of fun. All the stuff we got to talk about and what was in our lists from 19 to 11, from bad to good. But again, for me, how I see it, for my list, not that bad to good to excellent. Well, for excellent, that especially is for top 10. So, and again, the choices that we picked, understandable ones, reasonable, and but at least I've had some positive things to say. I know Tiki has a little, not that much.
I mean, I feel like once we hit like Sleepy Hollow, that's when I started to actually get positive. So
okay, good,
like 2 or 3 from number 11.
And you can tell, of course, like right away that from like say Batman '89 and Sleepy Hollow, they are definitely going to be in my top 10.
All right.
So again, this was a lot of fun. Part 2, can't wait for. Part 1, can't wait for part 2 next Saturday.
Okay, thanks again, everyone, for joining us in the comments. I think the fact that we still got 5 people watching means that we didn't do that bad as far as the runtime goes. So, yeah. All right. See y'all later. You guys are awesome. Can't wait.
Yep. Bye-bye.